In light of current events and also our motions regarding anti-racism in September of 2020 and equity and recognition for all in October 2020, I want to just reiterate that the municipality of Meaford is committed to fostering inclusivity within our communities, local government, and within our institutions and multi-sectoral service agencies. All residents deserve to feel safe and accepted within our community, regardless of their age, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, socioeconomic status, race, ethnic group, or nationality. While the municipality of Meaford supports people's rights to organize and protest, we stand by the 2SLGBTQIA+ community members and their right to live to their true selves safely and free of harassment and hate. Fostering an environment of equity and recognition for all is the responsibility of everyone, beginning with community leaders. Everyone should have the opportunity to work, live, learn, play, and thrive in our community, free from discrimination and harassment. Are there any other announcements from council or from staff? Let's start with Mr. Smith, our interim CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple from me today. One, to recognise two exceptionally successful events that took place through the municipality since we last met. On Saturday, the 23rd of September, we held our first annual tree planting at Beautiful Joe, which was attended by a good number of families, and 125 trees were planted as part of National Forestry Week. We're very grateful for the help we had from Forestry Ontario and Great Silver Conservation Authority at that event. And then the week previously, we had our first annual community safety fair, and representatives from many social services and safety organisations around the area were present, including the OPP's bike rodeo, and we had over 100 people attend that event, which was also very successful. And then I'm pleased to announce an event coming up on Wednesday, September the 27th. That's this Wednesday at 7:30 at Meaford Hall. The Aurelia Youth Centre has generously presented a concert at Meaford Hall to support our local youth through the Backpacks for Learning programme. Chris Story, our Manager of Cultural Services, when learning about the Backpacks for Learning programme, extended an invitation to Amy Teed Akers, who graciously accepted. That programme is a vital component of George and Bay Community School and is now celebrating its 10th year, and it relies exclusively on donations, which means that this concert is a significant boost to its fundraising efforts. The event showcases the talents of US artist Roger Harvey, joined by special guests My Father's Son and Sammy. The performance is scheduled at 7:30 on Wednesday, as I say, and ticket prices are flexible. It's a pay what you can, ranging from $20 to $75. And ticket buyers also have the opportunity to pay it forward by purchasing tickets to share with others, spreading the joy for this initiative. So we're very grateful to the Aurelia Youth Centre and the artists in question for their donation to the Backpacks for Learning programme.
Other announcements, Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. Just on behalf of the Rotary Club of Meaford, I wanted to announce that their trivia night is coming up. It's not until October the 27th, but I want people to start thinking about putting teams together for this really fun evening. There's typically been quite a bit of competition between the library team and a team from the municipality. So it's a night to look forward to, and by all means, pull your team together, 8 people, and every table is themed. So decor and costumes are certainly recommended. J.D. Moffat will be the Master of Ceremonies, and this will take place at the Meaford Community Centre. And any funds raised will go to support Rotary community events and initiatives. And if anybody wants any further information, they're welcome to get in touch with me. Thank you very much.
Who's next? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention, I'm sure everyone's aware that the Scarecrow Parade and the Apple Harvest Craft Show are upcoming. Very big events in our area. We're hoping this weather will continue for the rest of this week and all weekend. But I did want to mention it's a little different activity. I'm afraid I don't know too much about it, but this occurs Saturday, September 30th at noon. The activity is slated to start, and it involves the skateboarders of Meaford. It's called the Meaford Skateboard Contest, and apparently all skateboarders of different levels of expertise are invited to come down to the skateboard park and show off their runs and their tricks, and should be a great event. I'm not sure if the ages are 20 to 75 or not, but anyway, sounds like fun. Thanks.
Any other announcements? Go ahead, Councillor Bell.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Maybe not so much as an announcement, but a nice kudo. Being in the business that I am, I do a lot of traveling on our rural roads, and I just want to say a big thank you to our crews that are out on the rural roads doing the cutting of the edges with the machinery to, keep the weeds down. It's the second time they've done that this year, and it just shows the ratepayers that we've got some pretty good stewardship happening. So I just wanted to say thank you to the work crews.
Thank you. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is a busy weekend. Not only the Scarecrow is happening, as well as the craft show, but the Meaford Creative Arts Association, they're having a art show at the Meaford Hall this Saturday on the 30th at noon. Last year, I remember they did this as well, and it really is a great opportunity. You have so many people in town for the craft show as well as the parade that it draws a big crowd. So that's another good opportunity, as well as in concert with the Rotary. I'll just like to give a plug for the Canettes as well, because their roast beef dinner is happening this Saturday at 6 p.m. So again, anybody wanting to support another local service club that does great work in the community, that's available as well.
And just one more from me, and that is that this Saturday at Castle Beach Park in Owen Sound, the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation is holding an event to mark Truth and Reconciliation Day. And the only thing I really know for sure is that they are heartily inviting the entire community out to celebrate with them and to learn more. So I just pass that on, and maybe, do you know more about it, Matt?
Nope, not on that one, but I do have one more to add once you finish.
Okay. Anyway, I believe it gets underway at 10 o'clock, and I'll try and do a post on it when I learn more about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one I neglected to add. I'm pleased to welcome Chris Sadler. He's one of our new staff who's taking on one of the new roles that Council approved last year, which is split between the transportation team in the winter and the parks team in the summer. So we'd just like to welcome Chris and wanted to get him in front of Council.
Okay. So we'll move on to public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and are limited to 10 minutes in time. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or to ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, either phone or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with legislative services by 10 a.m. on the morning of the meeting. And you can do that by contacting Deputy Clerk at meaford.ca or call 519-538-1060, extension 1100. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes and public questions to 2 minutes. And also the public can watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel at www.meaford.ca/YouTube. So moving on to presentations, I'd like to welcome Sergeant Ron Lindsay, who is subbing for Deborah Anderson as Grey Bruce OPP with her quarterly report. Thank you, Sergeant Lindsay.
backwards. Good afternoon, and for those that I've never met before, don't know me, I am Rod Lindsay. I'm a platoon sergeant here in the Grey Bruce Detachment. I work out of and report to the Meaford Detachment. Inspector Richardson and Staff Sergeant Anderson send their regrets. One is on vacation and the other one had a conflicting schedule and could not be here today. With the report that Inspector Richardson sent out, I just want to go through and highlight some important things that I think are significant and try to relate them back to how it's impacting the municipality of Meaford. Starting with our crime unit, which is led by Sergeant Byron Swash. Currently, we've got 7 detectives in that unit. And in the first 6 months of this year, they've had to either lead, assist, or supervise 110 benchmark occurrences. 110 in the first 6 months is a lot. And out of those 110, 48 were sudden death investigations, 4 of which were deemed to be opiate overdoses. They had to deal with 18 reported sexual assaults, 3 indecent acts, a child pornography complaint, armed robberies, robberies without weapons, large cryptocurrency frauds, which is becoming more and more common, arson complaints, and missing persons. 2 noteworthy cases that they were heavily involved with in the first 6 months of the year were the 2 serious armed robbery occurrences. One was in a Saugeen First Nation business where shots were fired during the robbery. The second being the takeover armed robbery of the Dundalk Credit Union in Feversham. The Saugeen First Nation robbery resulted in 2 Toronto men being identified and arrested. They were able to seize a prohibited firearm. Drugs suspected to be cocaine and fentanyl were also seized during that arrest. As for the Dundalk Credit Union robbery, this has been linked to several other credit union robberies across southern Ontario that were happening back in the spring. That is unsolved right now. One of our crime unit members has been assigned to the multi-jurisdictional investigative team, and they're working on this case. With respect to the municipality of Meaford, there is 2 cases that I think are worth identifying. The first one was the crime unit was able to identify a young adult male that was committing arsons across the town, like it's in the town of Meaford itself. 2 crime unit members were assigned to it through interviews, investigation. They were able to identify the young male, and he was charged with 9 counts of arson. That matter is currently before the courts. The second incident that was well known across the municipality was the one in Sydenham where it was on Sunny Valley Road near Grey Road 11, I believe. This was the pedestrian motor vehicle fatality. It was deemed to actually be a criminal act versus a traffic incident. With the help of our Criminal Investigation Bureau, they were able to determine what happened. There was a lengthy investigation, and they were able to identify the driver and charge him with dangerous driving causing death. And again, that matter is still before the courts. In addition to all these responsibilities, the crime unit continues to follow up leads, prepare for court. They're heavily involved in assisting Owen Sound with some homicides. We got several members with respect to Meaford. We have the Sprung homicide that took place back in May of 2020. We had the preliminary inquiry to see if it would go to trial for first-degree murder. That happened, and we are proceeding with a trial for first-degree murder. The last I heard, we're looking at next year for that trial. I suspect that probably will garner some media attention. So you can see from the report, our crime unit has been very busy this year. There's been a lot on their plate. With respect to our community street crimes unit, currently we have 5 detectives with 2 vacancies. At the time of this report, it says that there's 30 active drug or property crime investigations that are ongoing. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a member, and he actually said that has now doubled. They've got 60 active drug and property crime investigations across Grey Bruce that they are actively working on. We did have 1 constable that was off on parental leave. He is now returned, so that gives us 3 members in the county that are focusing on those investigations. Of note, it should be highlighted that the Street Crimes Unit is currently having 4 parallel drug trafficking investigations that are linked to opioid overdoses that they're investigating. They were able to get judicial authorization through warrants to seize the cell phones and electronic devices that were located on scene, and they're able to get the access to the evidence, and now they're reviewing that for potential leads and potential arrests. Also, it should be noted that in response to the number of opioid-related occurrences, officers are actively undertaking several proactive drug investigations in the area. So the Street Crimes Unit is busy as well. This year, they have made great community impacts all around by taking guns and drugs out of our community, but also returning stolen property back to the victims. We often forget about that. We may get the culprits, the suspects, but sometimes it can be hard to get the property. They've been instrumental in trying to get people's property back to them. Another important topic is our mobile crisis response team. I assume everybody's aware of what that is. So basically, the mobile crisis response team consists of mental health workers. One's a registered nurse. Another one, I think she's got some education background in psychology. Anyway, they actually will sit at the detachment, and when we get mental health calls, they will actually deploy from the detachment and meet us wherever it is we're going to meet the person that is in need. They are trained, qualified people. Program excellent. Can't say enough about it. This helps our community all around. As you know, we are not mental health workers, right? And by having them there, they do a couple things. One, they help the person in need because they have the training, they have the background, they have the resources to put the people in touch to be able to get these resources that they need. Before we had them, what would happen is we would have to take them to the hospital, and it would tie officers up for hours on end, just simply for them to be able to get in touch with resources that they need. It's not that they need to be formed or apprehended or anything like that. They just need resources. So they've been able to do that for us. This benefits the community because it's putting us back out on the street because we're not spending as many hours at the hospital. It allows us to be out doing what the community expects us to be doing proactive patrol, ride, things like that. So every hour that we save at the hospital because of them, it's an hour we put back into the community. So can't say enough about this program. Reason it's on here, I never said it, was we actually got funding to get a third member. So we have 3 now. We only had 2 before, now we got 3. And as the statistics keep coming in, hopefully we can get more and get full 24/7 coverage. That would be awesome. So another good news story. We have a new media relations officer, Constable Krista Linthorne. She took over from Nick Wilson. If that name rings a bell, Nick has moved on to other opportunities within the OPP. Krista is a hardworking, dedicated officer. She was on my platoon, so I know her firsthand. I know her well. She is heavily involved in community engagement. She volunteers not only on duty, but off duty as well. She volunteers for everything, you name it. She is glad to do it. She is going to do very well in this role. She's from the area. She grew up here, and she's been with the OPP, I think, 8.5 years. And through this role of hers, she'll be looking after community safety, school resources, and media relations. Through this role, she'll be able to showcase the good things that the Grey Bruce OPP are doing. And I see they put it in here. I don't know if anybody noticed it, but it was there was a media post of a Lamborghini that was caught doing 146 kilometers in a posted 80-kilometer zone. She put that on Twitter, I believe, and we got 4,000 comments, over 4,000 comments on that traffic stop on Facebook. So it just goes to show you how important road safety is to a lot of people in our communities. With respect to our auxiliary unit, they have been very busy as well. This year, so far in the first 6 months, they've increased the number of volunteer hours from last year to this year. The auxiliary officers are also involved in the community of Meaford. One of the examples I see they put in here was that in January, one of the members came in and volunteered their time to go to the school here on St. Vincent Street and assist with presentations at the Meaford School. They're also heavily involved in food drives, the community events, ride-alongs, things like that. One of the things I would like to highlight is that in March, we had 3 members that were presented with service awards. Lance Holmes, if you know him, retired after 20 years of volunteer service. Auxiliary Sergeant Paul Ballard received his 25-year service award, and Auxiliary Constable Kevin Predon has 5 years now. They are a very important part of our detachment. They are a valuable asset to us. They do a lot of things, again, that allow us as police officers to get on the road and do the things that the community expects us to do. It's also a gateway, too, for us to bring people in that may be thinking about becoming a police officer, but they don't know exactly what policing may be all about. This program allows them to come in, they get to understand policing a little bit more, and we use it to get them to apply and become a police constable. Currently, right now, we've got 1 female auxiliary officer that just went through the competition. She was successful, and she is currently at the Ontario Police College completing her basic training, and she will be joining us in February as a constable. So that's very exciting for us. It's a very good program. Quickly on our crime statistics, referring to the municipality of Meaford, you can see that in Q1 and Q2 from last year to this year, we're up about 300 calls for service. Might ask me why. Without the statistics being broken down, it's hard for me. I got a pretty good idea of what it might be, being a road sergeant. Our mental health calls are up across everywhere. It's across all municipalities, and I suspect that's probably what's driving that number. But again, that goes back to our MCERT program, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, who are coming in and they're alleviating us of that and allowing us to do the things that the community expects us to. Respect to traffic. Last year, we had a traffic management unit that was started up late spring, I believe. This consisted of 2 members, and their sole purpose is that traffic management, out doing traffic enforcement. And the first 6 months of this year, the 2 constables have issued 577 charges. On top of that, they've also issued 523 warnings as well. In Q2 alone, there was 322 provincial offense charges, 256 warnings, and they successfully caught 4 impaired drivings out on the roads. One of the highlights they talked about in here that we see in the municipality of Meaford was they did a collaboration with community partners, the other municipal police services, Ministry of Transportation, and they did a 4-day commercial motor vehicle blitz. And in that 4-day blitz, they stopped 117 commercial motor vehicles. 72 charges were laid, 60 warnings issued. But out of that 117 vehicles, 66 of them had to be taken off the road. So over half had to be taken off the road for different safety violations. This is happening in Meaford. I've been a part of it. One of the officers will come over here. He'll partner up with a member of the Ministry of Transportation and the MTO building out on 26 Highway, just before you get to the grocery store. That's their property there. It's a great location, set up as trucks come into the town and leave. We pull them in and we're able to do inspections and check them for violations and things like that. So I know it wasn't in the report, but that is something that I've seen done and been part of here in the municipality. Commercial motor vehicles, I think, have gotten away with a lot over the years, but they're starting to draw a lot of attention with a lot of the issues, safety issues that's going on with them not being well maintained. So we're on top of that. And it also is the reason why on the one page it shows a dramatic increase in speeding violations. I would say that's contributed to with our traffic management unit, with them being involved. That has bumped up that number. You can see it's almost, well, we went from 264 in the first 3 months last year to 405 speeding violations this year. So they've had a huge impact on road safety. Lastly, just talk about the cadet program because it's kind of in line with the auxiliary program. I see Inspector Richardson had in his report at the time that the applications for a cadet closed back in August. My understanding was that Great Bruce Detachment is getting one cadet. It's the same thing as the auxiliary. They're great for doing police work in the office that doesn't necessarily need a constable to do. And again, what that does is that puts us officers back out on the road so that we're visible doing the things, as I said earlier, that the community wants us to do. So we're excited about that. Hopefully we'll have somebody in place soon, and yeah, it'll be great.
Thank you. I think a lot of us had an opportunity to meet with Krista Linthorn, your new Community Services and Media Relations Officer, at the wellness event.
Yeah, she will be great. She's, like I said, she's very much invested in community engagement, being out there, speaking with people and being involved. So,
are there any questions for the sergeant around the horseshoe? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks very much. A lot of information there, and it's good to know. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll start. Credit union robberies. You mentioned they seem to be getting hit more than maybe some other facilities. Are they being hit because maybe they don't have the big league security and surveillance that the big banks have, or would that be part of the reason, or is it more that they are more common in rural areas, or is there any common denominator there?
no, I mean, really, until we locate them and interview them and have that conversation, it can only speculate at this point why they're targeting the Dundalk banks. It could be maybe because, like, if you look at the one at Feversham, it is rural, right? Not really visible. That could be a reason. It's really hard to say until they can start getting more facts into why they're being targeted.
Thank you, Worship. And first of all, Sergeant Lindsay, I really want to thank you for being here. We haven't had an in-person report from the OPP for a little while, so we're really grateful to have you here with us today. I just wanted to ask one question in relation to Constable Krista Linthorn. Will she also act as a school liaison officer? It would be really wonderful to have, I think, a presence in our school, and I just wondered if that would be part of her role.
I think part of her role is going to be maybe doing presentations in the school. But as far as like when you say liaison, my mind goes to having somebody dedicated that responds to issues at the school. That'll still be a part of the road officers, that they will respond to any kind of issues that take place at the school. But as far as getting into the schools, doing presentations on like drugs, maybe things like that, that'll be Constable Linthorn's role to do.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to, well, it's not great to hear the great work is being done. It means bad things are happening. But thank you for all the good work. Just under I saw the bit about the car cameras and the new radio network. I'm just wondering if this report's accurate that they will be kind of outfitted this coming in 2024. Seems to be obviously a pretty widely used technology nowadays. So just wondering how close we are to being up to date.
Actually, here at the Grey Bruce Detachment, we have the new public safety radio network. The new radios are installed to cruisers. This is actually the new radio right here. They're a little bit thinner, smaller. The antenna's a little bit longer, but yeah, it's good technology. We have it here. Nothing against the old system. It was just, it was just time. It did its purpose, and it was just time for a change. But here at the Grey Bruce Detachment, we have the new radios. The in-car cameras we do now have in Grey Bruce Detachment. With the in-car cameras, it automatically comes with the what we call the ALPR, which is the automated license plate recognition. That is a great tool for us. It's great for identifying drivers that are suspended or out driving around and shouldn't be. It gives us lawful authority to stop those vehicles now, to check on to make sure that it's not the registered owner that's driving the vehicle. So all that technology, we've been lucky here at Grey Bruce Detachment to have it. I would say between the spring and the summer, everything kind of came into play. The only thing that we don't have yet that's coming is the body-worn cameras. AP, I've gotten one and not the other. And for us, it was the radios first and body-worn cameras to come later. Just on the touch, before I forget, I just want to say that, having worked Meaford or worked in the municipality, policed here for, in my 16th year now, this is a safe community. There's a lot of work to be done, and we are doing. But as a platoon sergeant being responsible for all of Grey Bruce, we've got eight municipalities, 2 First Nations communities. I can honestly say that I feel Meaford is the safest out of all of them.
Thank you for those remarks. Thank you. Very good. Another question, Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sergeant Lindsay, thank you for everything. I appreciate that. I wanted to just comment on the mobile crisis response team and just talk about how important that is in all municipalities, but particularly for where we are. Just to give people some perspective with regards to how effective these are, I did some research and I was looking at Hamilton's mobile crisis response team. Before this was in place, the calls that the police would respond to in a mental health crisis situation typically would result in 3 out of every 4 individuals were taken into custody. And now, several years into that, it's 1 in 5. So it shows that the crisis response team is able to provide the support for the people that are really needed. So I just want to commend you and the OPP for doing that. It's a wonderful service, and keep up the great work. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, they're fantastic. The people that we've got employed, they're really well trained, and they're able to connect with the people in crisis and de-escalate situations and get them the help that they need. So I can't speak highly enough of that program.
Okay. Thank you again, Sergeant. And if you'll just leave the microphone on for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no deputations on agenda items this afternoon, but we do have a public question from William Smith. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to take the podium there.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, for the opportunity to speak today, and other respected members of council. I haven't sat in a chair like that since the mid-95, so I may seem a little nervous. I am. The whole reason we're all sitting down here is the first lesson we learned back then is if you get nervous, just imagine everybody you're looking at is naked. So, and I'm standing behind something here too, so I'm protected also. I had a question with regards to the zoning bylaw that's on the computer, and I tried to resolve that issue with the deputy CEO here that's here today, and I didn't find a satisfactory answer. If you look at the zoning bylaw that I brought up, and I was referenced by one of the staff at the desk down there to seeing as it's all online, go online to answer some of my questions. Well, when I brought it up, it has the zoning bylaw on one side and on the other side, a side panel. On that side panel is pages, and the pages have numbers. Well, I was referring to that as a table of contents. If you look on the opposite side, the issues that you're looking for have a number beside them. So when I looked on the opposite side, they didn't line up. And I kind of wondered why. And it was explained to me that those particular documents nowadays don't really do that. And that's not how you use a table of contents. Well, I was raised probably, I hate to say this, 69, I'm 69 now, so a few years ago. But a table of contents to me meant that if you look on one side and it says a page number, that item will be found on that page number. Has that really changed in documents here nowadays? Or that's my question. How would council or any of you on council look at a table of contents and not find that? Like I said, I was referred by staff at the front desk to use that to try and answer some of my questions, but it didn't lead me anywhere that a typical table of contents, say in a book or a magazine, would lead you to. So unfortunately, that document's over 200 pages long, and I went through all of it. Is that something that the member of the public should really have to do to try and find answers to their questions in the zoning bylaw? That's my question for members of council here today.
Well, I'll just answer it by saying we'll look at it. It's sort of news to me, and we'll look at it. And if the site, the website is misleading or erroneous, we'll get it fixed.
Okay.
I hope you did find your answer when you read the total document.
There was a few things. I got one answer today anyway, but that's pretty well. There was 3 other questions. I've got most of them answered here today, but that still remained a concern for me because the table of contents that I usually refer to in magazines or whatever seem to lead you directly to what you're looking for. And I find this document doesn't do that.
Okay. Thank you for drawing that to our attention, and we will look at it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Council inquiries. Are there any council inquiries today? Councillor Uhrig.
Yeah, I was actually asked by a ratepayer about, I think, and Mr. Voigt's not here, but Mr. Smith may be able to answer it. Just kind of the status. I thought they had said that they expected to see something to be on the agenda for September 25th meeting for STRs. Just wondering where the status of that is and when we might see something on that.
At the next meeting.
From you? Sorry, I missed it.
It'll be on the next agenda.
Okay, good. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
A variety of movements when we couldn't get some editing done at the last minute, but it will be on the October 16th agenda.
Other council inquiries? Seeing none, then let's move on to the consent agenda. And items in this list have been before Committee of the Whole for discussion. Council may choose to pass these items and or bylaws with one motion, or a member may also request an item or items be pulled for separate consideration. And I'm going to read the 3 of these just so that our audience at home can follow along. The first is a recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, number 1, ask the County of Grey to purchase the former GBCS track property for a future housing and green space project. 2, request that County Council direct county staff to prepare a summary of options for the development of a housing project on that property. And 3, commit $500,000 toward the purchase of the property, in addition to the $370,100 in county PILT or payment in lieu of taxes funds previously allocated to a housing project in Meaford. That's the first. The second is the recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to work with the design consultants to develop a conventional design footprint that incorporates some low-impact design features and reduces the heat island impact of the parking lot, that's at 28 Nelson Street West, for Council's consideration. And the third item is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford direct staff to include the road resurfacing projects and road rehabilitation and reconstruction projects outlined in Appendix 1 and 2 in the draft 2024 capital budget based on the methodology identified in the report. Council, what's your pleasure? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to pull A, please.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to put it on the table. If that's the traditional way, let's take items B and C, and we need a motion to approve them. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Bartley. All in favor? And those two are approved. Coming back to item A. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I just thought at this time I would read the motion that is coming before County Council on Thursday, just so that all members of Council and anyone in the listening public is aware of what we are attempting to gain approval for at that level. So the motion reads, whereas the County of Grey recognizes access to attainable and affordable housing is important to the community and supports that work in the county's Housing Action Plan, which includes additional actions centered on land use planning, policy, and community development approaches. And whereas the Blue Water District School Board declared the property located at 87 Aiken Street, PINs 37118-0051 and 37118-0062 in the municipality of Meaford are commonly known as the Georgian Bay Community School Track as surplus on October the 18th, 2022, and available for public sale on June the 6th, 2023. And whereas the Council of the Municipality of Meaford passed the following resolution requesting that Grey County purchase the property for a housing and green space project at their September 18th, 2023 meeting, that Council of the Municipality of Meaford asked the County of Grey to purchase the former GBCS tract property for a future housing and green space project. 1, request that County Council direct county staff to prepare a summary of options for the development of a housing project on that property, and 2, commit $500,000 towards the purchase of the property, in addition to the $370,100 county PLT fund previously allocated to a housing project in Meaford. And 3, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the County of Grey hereby directs staff to enter into negotiations for the purchase of 87 Aiken Street in Meaford, and that the authority to negotiate the purchase of this property be delegated to the Chief Administrative Officer. And 1, that staff prepare a report investigating options for a housing and green space project on the subject lands. And 2, that funds be allocated from the remaining 2021 payment in lieu of taxes settlement as earmarked for affordable or attainable housing projects within the municipality of Meaford to support this initiative as part of the 2024 budget process. So I'm sure County Council will have a fulsome discussion about this on Thursday, and I will certainly report back. Thank you.
Is there any discussion of this item before we vote? Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much discussion, but I do want to thank our Deputy Mayor. I think that that's a very complete notice of motion. And again, thanks to you and Mayor Kempner for over at the county table for bringing this forward. I know this is exploring in rather foreign territory. Affordable housing is, I don't think you'll find it in the list of necessary services in the Municipal Act, but I feel very proud that the municipality of Meaford is taking a step forward, is coming to the plate in a time of desperate need for more income-based housing that people can actually afford. And I commend our county councillors for bringing this forward. And I'm hoping I can get a chance to go over to the county on Thursday morning and cheer you on and listen to the comments that your fellow county councillors provide. Thank you.
One more item here for consideration. Bylaw number 2023-58, Municipal Access Agreement with ATEL Networks, Inc. And the recommendation is, be it resolved that this bylaw to enter into a municipal access agreement with ATEL Networks, Inc. be taken and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I have a motion to put that on the floor. Moved by Councillor Forder, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. Any discussion on this? Councillor Forder.
Information in here. So I just have a question with regards, might be a couple questions as we go here, but to understand the potential changes in the executing party, in section 16.2, who are considered as affiliates of ATEL and what is the potential impact of allowing assignment to them without the municipality's consent?
Ask me legal questions that I may not have detailed answers to. What I will say is that this agreement is based upon a CRTC template that our lawyer has then spent a considerable amount of time editing to reflect the Meaford situation. So the clauses in here are fairly standard. My interpretation of this will be if a company like ATEL were to have a subsidiary, ATEL 2 Rural or something like that, as Bell and Rogers and many other organizations do, then basically those organizations would still have the ability to use this agreement to install fiber optic cable into our road allowances. So it's just kind of I think when companies have sub-companies underneath them, in effect, is what they'd be classed as an affiliate as far as this is concerned.
Stephanie?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and I agree, a very comprehensive report. My question is in relation to right-of-ways, as occasionally council gives the approval to sell a right-of-way, and should we do that, and should it have any ATEL servicing underneath it, how would we approach that?
Well, so generally, if there's any sort of infrastructure underneath a road allowance, we probably wouldn't sell it as a general rule. ATEL, again, no different from Rogers or Bell or, Connect the Dots or a number of the other companies that we've seen these for over the last 5 years. If it were to get to the stage where infrastructure being installed in our right of way that then we were going to sell, then I imagine that ATEL would require an easement to be registered on the title as part of the transfer to whoever was going to purchase it. But generally, this is about travelled road allowances, and so it's pretty unusual for us to sell one of those anyway.
Greenfield?
Through you to Mr. Smith, after the work is completed, will the roadside appear any different than it did before? And the reason I'm asking this is that a lot of our properties, the residents take on their own initiative to groom the ditches, the roadside area, keep it looking spiffy. And I'm just concerned if any of their hard work and efforts after this work is done is somewhat depreciated. Where do we go from there?
So part of the agreement is that any company with a municipal access agreement must repair the land that they have used in order to install their cabling. The same would apply for Union Gas and people like that as well. They're in their similar kinds of arrangements. The requirement to repair is based on our standard road allowance standards, so generally sort of a grassed area. But my experience dealing with this and seeing it in other places is that it'd be very rare that a company would want to dig up a flower bed, although whether a flower bed should be on the municipal road allowance is highly debatable anyway. Again, we really don't have a choice about passing this. This is a CRTC mandated thing that we put ourselves in a position where we enter into the agreement to set rules fairly clearly. But if we don't do it, then NATEL or any other company like them are allowed to do this. Just this sets the rules pretty clearly without us having to revert to provincial law.
Seeing no other questions, are you ready to vote? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Need a motion now to move into committee of the whole. Moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Greenfield. And be it resolved, we move into committee of the whole at 1:53 p.m. The first item here is item 15, dedicated tax increase for affordable housing. Recommendation that Committee of the Whole receive report CAO 2023-15, dedicated tax increase for affordable housing for information purposes.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I think we've already talked about this earlier at budget time or earlier in the year. And I cannot support this. This jurisdiction of affordable housing is under the county. They receive money from the province and they look after this. We have a hard enough time getting money from the province to do our infrastructure deficit, let alone trying to get money for this. Having said that, is the municipality going to go into the real estate business? That means more employees. You raise the taxes for this, it's just going to employees to run a housing project. We are the second highest taxes in the county. I've been really trying to change that. We are being caught up by the other municipalities. I'm going to try to stick to that. So I don't see much staff here today, but so I'll ask Matt, do you think we're going to have a 0% tax increase brought forward to us in December? Because as it stands right now, without any more money being looked for gravel or for any employees or for anything, we're looking at a 3% right now with our 1.5, another 0.5% to the Owen Sound for their leaf yard waste. So we're already at 3% without anything coming forward. And having said that, I don't believe we should be in the business that the county looks after this. We should support the county, and we are. We've already put in 500,000 towards it, which scares me bad, because we're taking that money from the education tax from the DND, which I know. Well, I don't know, but I have a strong feeling we're going to have to pay the piper eventually. So I just don't see the municipality getting into this business. So for that reason, I cannot support this, even though it is for information purposes only.
Councillor Bell.
That occurs to any sitting council anywhere is that members of council for all of us around this horseshoe, we all have a real desire to do the very best that we can. And this subject of affordable housing has been discussed at all levels of government, feds and down the entire country of Canada. And so here we are with, for information purposes, about assigning a full percentile to try and do something. The harsh reality is that, we really can't do all things to all people in all places for all reasons. And even though our desires are to do something such as this, the financial burden that I know all of my fellow councillors are fully aware of. We received a report maybe 2 or 3 councils ago about the shortfall that we have just on taking care of our bridges. Now, we were wise when we put 1% towards just doing bridges. We have been making some very strong achievements. We'd have had a lot of bridges closed if we hadn't have done what we currently do. I still get some folks who come to me, and I don't know whether any other of you folks get this kind of comment, that the municipality keeps raising my taxes. And they say, and I don't know what I get for them. So I spend some time and I tell them about all of the things inside the grand corporation of the municipality. But we also need to bear in mind that the interest rates of this country are rising, that people are feeling the pinch in more ways than one. And every time that we add another percentile, ultimately onto taxes, the people that we represent, they feel it. And there is a lot of people who really take a close scrutiny as to when we tell them what their tax rate increase is going to be, they're hit hard. And I'm just going to tell you a little personal thing about my dearly departed mother. My mother represented a portion of the demographics that we've got in the municipality. My mother told me that she watched her hydro bill very, very carefully. She monitored that expense. She told me that she watched what she bought at the grocery store, being very, very frugal. And there were many other things that my mom did because she was on that fixed income of limited resources. And one day at home, my mother said to me, "How dare you raise my taxes?" There's my dear mom. And I had to explain to my mother about all the dynamics of running a corporation of the municipality. Well, my mother listened to that, like I'm sure a lot of other seniors would. But the bottom line is that when we raise the taxes, people do feel it. And so just by taking this with this, it's a great thing. I mean, it's a start. And like fellow councillor Bartley said just moments ago, we've made a $500,000 commitment. We're showing that we care. We're showing that by putting some money where the idea exists, we're already committed to doing that, and it's real. And our deputy mayor and our mayor are going to carry that story to Grey County, and I know you'll do a fabulous job saying so. But on this one here, with bank rates increasing, there's a lot of instability. We don't know where we're going to head when we look at that 2024 budget. And we have seen budgets before with opening phrases of 7 and 8%. So I'm just saying that at this point, this is a spot where we can say, not at this time. We're already doing something magnificent. And today, let's just not have this one show up for consideration on our 2024 budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and I very much appreciate the comments from Councillors Bell and Bartley. And I think there's many different ways to look at this. And while I'm giving out thank yous, I want to thank Councillor Greenfield as well for this motion that was brought to us some months ago. I think when we look at affordable housing, part of the struggle is defining the term, because we know the county is responsible for what I'll call social housing, subsidized housing, and that type of ability to put roofs over people's heads. When we talk here in this particular motion about affordable housing, I see that more as worker-based housing. Councillor Greenfield addressed it as income-based. I see it as potentially rental units that people who are working at, minimum wage or slightly higher can actually afford to live in. From my perspective, I think that's what we're talking about here. And I do recognize the impact that there would be on the taxes. And I also realize that we need more of us here in Meaford to share the tax burden. As long as we don't have growth and there are just the same number of us here, then our taxes are going to continue to rise. So I think we need more of us to share the load, and bringing in some, we'll call it affordable housing, is one way of reaching that goal. So I again recognize that we're not making a decision here today, that this is something we will come back and discuss at budget time, and we do not know what we're looking at for budget, and we may or may not decide at that time that this is appropriate. But I think even discussing it really is absolutely great for this council here around the table in Meaford to be acknowledging the need for housing and to at least be considering how we can go about encouraging it, because from my perspective, it is time to take action. We've been talking about the need for affordable housing for a long time now at all levels of government. And all of us need to take this seriously and recognize the challenge and do what we can to address it. And I look forward very much to our budget deliberations when we can again consider going forward with this 1%. Thank you.
Who's next? Councillor Greenfield?
Municipality is having been a leader throughout the county over the past number of years. Councillor Bartley mentioned the 1.1 and 0.5, and we were the first to introduce that when it came to roads and bridges and facilities. And I understand a number of our fellow municipalities in this county have adopted a similar programs. Community well-being, we did that on our own. We didn't rely on the county. We jumped in. We said, hey, we're going to do our thing on that. And that's worked out, I think, fairly well. Community improvement plan. Game early. It's worked out well, not only in the urban areas, but now also in the rural areas. Our heritage areas designation, we're firmly committed to that. Leaders in the county. A library partnership with another municipality, unheard of, not only in the county, but in the entire province. But we've got that. We've had that for 23 years. It's working. We've got local low-cost transit, one of the first in the county to jump into that. To me, yeah, it would somewhat weaken our case to go to the county on Thursday with this recommendation defeated. I'm in favor of supporting it, as Councillor Bartley says. This is for information. I don't think this is the absolutely last decision on this discussion. But I'll be quite honest with you, with everyone, that without seeing even a draft presentation of our 2024 budget, I'm uneasy about passing this, but I do think we need to push forward with this if indeed we are serious. If we are serious about bringing the county in, we've got to be upfront about this, and that's where I'm at on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's difficult to say the least. I agree with that we have to address homelessness. We have to, I'm extremely sympathetic to the scenario. It is epidemic. My concern is it's a numbers game. Meaford has 11,500 residents approximately. We know 1% brings in about $180,000 at this time. That will be prorated over the next few years. Judging on Ms. Buckton's presentation and Mr. Boyd's comments, 10 years would be $1.8 million. Wouldn't even make a dent in what the amount of affordable housing we would need to compensate for what is happening in society. So it's hard to commit to something like that without doing or assessing what the impact's going to be, as Mr. Bell said, in that 10 years with the ratepayers. I agree, and I think we have shown good faith to the county by supporting with the Pilton $500,000. But I can't see how $180,000 based on what it's going to take to build affordable housing is even going to make a dent in it. If we were in Toronto and we had 4 million residents, if we were in Kitchener, we were in Guelph, we might be able to actually make a bite. But if you look up what the role of municipalities is in housing, it's assigning value and regulating use through zoning and approval processes. As Mr. Bartley said, we're not really in the real estate business. And I don't see how we can afford to play that game. We don't have the pockets. So I would have difficulty supporting it as is. I do agree we need to help the county in every way we can, but I'm not sure we have enough money to do it financially.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things. I agree with Councillor Yuri's comments about the value. To me, the only way this would make sense is if it became a compounding increase in very much the same way that the roads and the bridges and the facilities are, so that it would actually increase the amount every year. Because yes, 160,000 every year, it may as well not be there because it would just sit in a reserve for many, many years. On a very, very practical sense, I do ask that you do pass this today because it is only for information purposes. If you say no to it, it's as if it never existed. And, just for my sanity, I like to have felt like I've spent my time wisely. Nothing will happen as a result of this. There is, even if you receive this information, it's literally that. We won't include anything in the budget unless you give us clear direction to either now or at budget time. So this really is just... Councillor Greenfield's motion asks for some information. Here is some information. That's all it is.
Through you, great discussion, great comments, and I agree with everybody's points. And I am very torn on this. Of course, we all recognize the need for supporting affordable housing, and the cost of living is way up everywhere. And residents everywhere, they're struggling to support their families, let alone paying into additional tax levies that'll even further constrain their funds. I do support the idea of this initiative, but I'm looking forward to discussions during the budget season. So I will vote in favor of this for information purposes only, so we can further these discussions during the budget. However, I'm just curious, does anybody know, are there any other municipalities in Canada or Ontario that have implemented an affordable housing tax, and what have been the results from those initiatives? I haven't been able to find anything online. So are we the first to do this? I just don't know.
As ever, a complicated answer that I don't know the great detail of. Other municipalities have committed to doing similar types of things. In fact, I believe Grey County has said that they're going to put a 1% of their taxes towards affordable housing in the future. It's more difficult to see it in a lot of places, particularly if it is an upper tier or a unitary authority, because housing is part of their mandates, and so there's a housing budget anyway. I haven't seen anywhere where there is a 1% sort of recurring increase in the way this one particularly is. But I also haven't seen that very many times on roads and bridges and so on. I think a lot of municipalities are they're maybe budgeting more annually for things, but not necessarily referring to it in this way. So I think there are some places that are doing similar things, but maybe not sort of calling it the same. Other municipalities across the province are looking at housing in lots of different ways. Some are getting involved in the building of it. The Blue Mountains created an affordable housing corporation to try and do something on the former Foodland site there. That hasn't been tremendously successful so far, but I know they're looking at their options. That's just one example that I know there are quite a lot around there. So municipalities are putting money into this, but not maybe just in this kind of way normally when there's a specific project attached to it.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Just closing comment. We're every one of us are throwing affordable housing out there. I want to be the bearer of bad news. There's no such thing anymore. The gravel companies have doubled the price of gravel in the last 3 years, doubled. Construction costs have gone up 30 to 40%. There is no, minimum wages haven't gone up 30 to 50%. There is no such thing as affordable housing for the working class people. There's going to be subsidized housing, and that's what we need to talk about, is subsidized housing through the county, through the province, whatever you do, but there's no such thing as affordable housing.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just following up to Councillor Forder's comments. If you have a chance, Councillor Forder, investigate what they're doing in the town of Collingwood. They have had a task force that has done tremendous work, and the town has now hired a member of staff dedicated solely to research and potentially bringing in affordable housing to the town. So I think we have a neighbor who is taking this very seriously and is taking significant action. And I think, as Liz Buckton mentioned when she was here last Monday, there is a real groundswell of research happening within our community. A number of volunteers have stepped forward and are working within various groups to really understand this problem and to look at what the community can do itself to somehow finance affordable housing. So I think eventually, and this is something new, we are on the leading edge here. There may be partnerships to consider down the road, but I think at this point, let's just keep this alive, as interim CAO Smith has suggested, and see where we end up at budget time, and have another fulsome talk on this at that time.
And if I may just add, I haven't heard a word around the horseshoe that I can't agree with. But I do believe we're coming to a time when both the first tier and the province are going to be pouring money into municipalities to try and do something, and they will surely put it where the municipalities have made the most noise and put up probably the most money as well. So I'm prepared to vote for this on the basis of it being a strictly for information, because until we sit down to look at the budget, absolutely nothing is cast in concrete. So if you're ready for the vote, all in favor. Second item on the whole is a recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford 1 supports the existing library service level, whereby all residents of the municipality can become members of the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library. And 2, requests that the Meaford Public Library Board maintain that existing service level following the expiry of the current contract with the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library Board. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Greenfield, seconded by Councillor Forder, both members of the Library Board. Discussion. Finally, Development Services, we have a recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve a grant in the amount of $7,500 at 46 and 48 Syke Street North in accordance with the Downtown Community Improvement Plan. I need a mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Greenfield. Any discussion on this one? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm certainly in support of what's being requested here, but I do have a question for Mr. Smith. What concerns me is that this is the first uptick in 2023 from the CIP, and I'm just wondering if we have any idea why that is, or do we feel the funds that we're offering are really not enough to make a meaningful project possible? Is there a lack of awareness about this opportunity? Are businesses just not able to invest during these challenging times? What do we think is going on here?
All of the above. I think that the CIP has funded some good projects over the years, and we have seen some changes to local businesses and to facades and signs and so on. Going back to sort of 2015 now. The amounts that are available haven't changed in that period of time, and so it's my opinion that the maximum available as a grant in particular, but also the maximum loan amount, isn't enough to really do very much these days. If you just wanted to replace your front door, $7,500 probably wouldn't do it. So we are looking at whether there are creative ways to rejig the CIP to make it more valuable to folks. And I think, Rob and Graham will be having some conversations with people in the community and various sort of business focused groups about what that might look like going forward. I think we can always do more to tell people that this exists. And with our new economic development coordinator, I think he's already out there talking to people a lot more. And so people will find out more about it. But yes, I also do suspect that you're right, that many businesses are struggling right now with the cost of living increases that have been referenced with regard to housing. And so these sorts of investments are probably not the first sort of investments that are maintained during harder times. They're probably the last thing that people do. So yeah, I think it's probably a bit of all sorts. What we've always done, of course, is taken any money at the end of the year and put it into a CIP reserve. I don't have the number in front of me right now for what that means is in there, but I think that it does mean that if we can find some creative alternatives, then we may have some decent seed money to get us started.
Councillor Greenfield, did you wish to speak on this? I thought I saw your hand up.
On this, Your Worship. I'm glad this is coming forward, and I have to admit that I've always questioned about the cultured stone that was applied to the front of this building, and returning it to the original brickwork. I hope will be a visual improvement.
Speaking for the Heritage Advisory Committee, this is a wonderful application which is being done by people who really seem to understand what the goals of our downtown heritage conservation area are, and that is to preserve the fine architecture and the architectural features that were established by some very, very bright people 100 years ago. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Updates from, first of all, County Council, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. County Council did meet on the 14th of September. Council began with the customary adoption of minutes, along with good news and celebrations, which is like our announcements. We learned that 2023 was also the 166th Fall Fair for Dundalk, just as it was for Meaford. The Committee of the Whole appeared to be a short agenda, but the discussions were lengthy and interesting. Jane Mizanski from Gallagher Benefit Services Group delivered a very in-depth presentation regarding Grey County's non-union compensation and pay equity review. Gallagher was retained to assist with the compensation review to ensure the organization provides appropriate levels of total compensation for its employees, meeting pay equity compliance requirements, and ensuring salary administration and benefits are aligned to sector best practices. The last comprehensive review took place in 2013. Recruiting has been challenging for many reasons at the county. They believe baby boomer retirements, a shrinking pool of candidates, fewer graduates looking to the public sector for careers, and tough competition in the marketplace are the reasons. 10 comparators were analyzed, and it was determined that Grey County's pay is generally at or below the median. The target policy has been to pay within the 45th and 55th percentile of the market. It was recommended that council direct staff to phase in the updated 2023 pay structure target policy at the 50th percentile, with the cost to be considered during the 2024 budget cycle. Staff will bring forward a report with recommendations to develop a non-union compensation program, including job evaluation, target pay policy, annual salary adjustment, and how the cost of living adjustments increases will be set annually. During the consent agenda, council approved the revised plan of subdivision application for Meaford Haven. The plan includes 19 blocks for future residential, commercial, stormwater management, and parkland environmental protection and streets. The new street entrance into Meaford Haven, as we know, will align with the street entrance for Loon Call. Approval was also granted for extending the lapse date for the draft plan of condominium for the next phase of cottages at Lower Bay. And this will be extended by 2 years. This request was also supported by TBM Council. Council agreed to change the time of the inaugural session on December 5th, when the warden will be elected, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Contract was awarded to Ceridian Canada Limited to provide the human capital management solution for the county for a term of 5 years at a total fixed fee of $1.2 million. This software will provide efficiencies and will modernize HR processes, eliminating cumbersome paper-based systems, providing employees self-service functionality, and will give managers a real-time access to performance history, scheduling, and attendance data, as well as key management metrics and reports. Options were considered for emergency housing. Currently, the county needs to be able to offer 14,000 nights of shelter to cover the winter need. Meanwhile, we only have available 9,855 nights. Motels are utilized primarily in Owen Sound, which are expensive, and county staff don't have complete control over who is housed and for how long. All options are being discussed, including the purchase of a county asset with the ability to include office space for services and staff. But again, just emphasizing that staff at the county, as well as county council, are really worried about this winter with the high level of homelessness that we have, particularly in the Owen Sound area, that people who are currently sleeping rough outside just are not going to have anywhere to go. So this is a conversation that certainly will be continuing at the county level. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Heritage Advisory Committee, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. A good meeting. A number of activities taking place on Sykes Street in Meaford. I'll start on the just on the main block area. Heritage permits were assigned at 42 Sykes Street North. This is back over a period of time throughout 2023. So we had 42 Sykes Street North with a permit, 36 Sykes Street South. Try to say that quickly. 29 Sykes Street North, and as we just heard, about 48 Sykes Street North, the work being done there. So a lot of activity on the main street. And then we have two residences. 141 Sykes Street North. That's the house with the turret, basically right across from the Circle K gas bar. the Heritage Committee approved actually part 3 of that restoration project. There has been a great deal of work going on there. The Heritage Committee has been very involved, and things are coming together there. There have been some changes in the original plans, but I think by the end of the day, everything is going to look just magnificent there. And the other residence on Sykes was 191. That was right at the corner of Sykes and Bayfield Street. There's a building there that is undergoing some considerable repairs, siding, a lot of window and door work, and the permit was approved on that building too. So hopefully in the near future, construction can get going there. Again, I think I saw a lift at 141 Sykes Street North this morning. So hopefully something is taking place there to continue the rentals. The Grand Trunk Railway shed built in, as far as I can estimate, 1900. It might have been 1901, down at the harbor. The Heritage Committee asked for a plan to be brought forward to preserve that building. The presentation would include funding sources and hopefully some community partners with that building. The committee would like to see that building remain. It is an integral part of what once was an integral part of the urban area of Meaford, and it's unfortunately the last building that's there. We lost the railway station in the early 1960s. Beautiful building. Anyway, that's past history. But I think that those are the main points that were discussed, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Forder, the Library Board.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, we did, Councillor Greenfield and I met last Wednesday with the rest of the Library Board. Among all the things that we did, we reviewed the 2024 draft book replacement capital budget and also the 2024 draft operating budget. And with the help of the Meaford Public Library's Governance and Policy Standing Committee, 5 partnership and sponsorship policies and forms were approved unanimously. We've been working on that for the last several months over the summer. The board began discussions related to the Owen Sound North Grey Union Public Library Service Agreement, kind of what we just discussed earlier. And these discussions are ongoing as no decision on the matter has to be made at this time. The Meaford Public Library Board went into closed session with the municipal HR manager, the acting CAO, and the records management coordinator to discuss personal matters about identifiable individuals specifically related to the library CEO position. I've got a couple highlights from the Meaford Public Library for August. The number of e-library downloads was up to over 3,300, which was up from 2,700 last year. There were almost 1,900 public computer logins, which are up from 900 in last year. And the facility bookings, this is probably one of the most interesting stats, wildly popular, 121 bookings for this for August this year versus only 6 for August last year. And so far this year, the Meaford Public Library has facilitated over 81,000 checkouts. It gives you an idea of how popular that place is. And with Halloween fast approaching, October promises a dynamic lineup of spooktacular events and programs. So for more information, you can swing by the library in person or visit the website or their social media channels. And we will be meeting next on October 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Were there any other boards or committees to report on? Okay. We need a motion to move out of Committee of the Whole. by Councillor Bell. And we did that at 2:31 p.m. Motion, read the installation of municipal webcams. Would you like to explain your motion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, hopefully this one falls a little more under the auspice of affordability. So, but I think it just does help tourism, weather-related, informational. So, whereas there were previously several public webcams operated in downtown Meaford by private businesses, allowing residents and visitors to see weather, traffic, and commercial activity in the area. And whereas, as these cameras are no longer in operation, council wishes to install a new camera or cameras to provide a live video stream or streams of downtown Meaford. And whereas staff are currently reviewing existing video surveillance equipment and policies. Therefore, be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby directs staff to include the purchase and installation and video hosting of one or more live stream webcams for downtown Meaford in the upcoming review of existing video surveillance equipment.
Any discussion? Councillor Greenfield?
Thank you, Your Worship. A question, I don't know if Mr. Uri can help me or Mr. Smith, but formerly this camera presented weather, traffic, and commercial activity in the downtown. Is that the intent, the only intent in the future, or could there be more information provided, or is that to be decided along the way?
The intent, first and foremost, right now is basic. Due to privacy laws, that's going to be, and I think staff will look into this as well, as what can actually be accomplished through that. It's interesting that we had the OPP report here today, because in many countries in the world now, it's become widely accepted that video recording is pretty accepted for law enforcement purposes. However, privacy laws dictate what we can do. So in the interim, this would at least provide an opportunity for weather, when people can see traffic issues, and tourism. So when you have events happening such as Summerfest or stuff like that, people can see what's going on. Moreover, it's also an opportunity for, again, just people to, if you look worldwide at webcams, most municipalities in some way, shape, or form are on there now. It was sort of like a conversation we had in the past about the charging stations. Right now, Meaford's a little bit invisible to the world, and people worldwide are check in and see kind of what's happening in our community. And I don't think that's a bad thing from a tourism and notification perspective.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. This is kind of a twofold thing. There's cameras for tourism, see what's going on in Moon Sound, which could be made public, I think. I'm not a lawyer, and there's no lawyer in the room, from what I'm told. But I'm concerned about the other aspect of having some sort of camera system that, like the recent activity in Owen Sound, they're looking for security footage of certain perpetrators. And that would have to be a sealed camera system that is not open to the public, I would have to think. I know this whole camera thing gets our CAO on the edge. Could you tell us, is there a way around it?
So cameras are possible. Yes, I mean, anything that's like what I call CCTV, closed circuit television, is for use of the organization alone. So, yeah, these are two really different things. What Councillor Urick is talking about is very much a live stream webcam, so people can see what's happening in the world. It almost certainly wouldn't be recorded at all. You wouldn't be able to rewind and check to see who was there and all that sort of stuff, because that is the privacy side of it. For anything to do with our municipal webcam or municipal cameras for surveillance, we have to make a determination about the necessity of them. The Information and Privacy Commissioner gives some pretty specific guidance on what you are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And it's not just about it's not just about the risk of something happening. You've got to be able to demonstrate that it continues to be a risk. So, what you're supposed to do is once you put something up, say if we put up a camera outside of this room that was constantly running, I'd have to show every 6 to 12 months that we still needed to because there was still a risk in place. And so that's what makes it a real challenge for things like the incident in Owen Sound, because, while obviously that was a horrendous thing, you can't prove in advance that you need something to cover a horrendous thing that's about to happen. In certain high crime areas, you can do that, and obviously the police are more involved with that. I believe the OPP actually just got some money recently to fund some police-based surveillance equipment for places that they were having major crime problems. But for us, it's much more about damage to municipal facilities, or if we think that our staff are at risk from the public for some reason or other. So, we're just looking at things for the McCarroll Park washrooms, because unfortunately we have some ongoing vandalism there. But that will be something that we would put in place for a short period of time to try and deal with that vandalism problem, and then likely have to take them away again. It is really interesting how this is so different here to in other parts of the world. As Councillor Urick says, in lots and lots of places, it's everywhere. I think there's some statistics that say if you're in London, in England, you're on 6 different cameras at once, or you're never further away than 6 feet from a camera, or those kind of things. That's just not how the Ontario law is written, and certainly municipalities are held to a much higher standard than if you were doing it outside your own store on your private property.
So, Mr. Urick, are you looking just for tourism, or are you looking for the aspect security side also?
Initially, looking for the tourism angle. Long-term, with public or privacy laws act and what we can do, I would love to see more of a closed caption recording aspect. Because I worked for a internet company previously, and we were asked on more than one occasion by the local OPP if we had camera footage of certain things that happened within our corridor. Unfortunately, we didn't either, because we were also only CCTV. So everything comes down to what you're legally allowed to do. So it does, as Matt said, it is unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, but it is realistically, you have to err on the side of caution of what's legal in terms of privacy. Owen Sound is a perfect example of there were private cameras that have captured some images of that. We are coming to a point in society with when we were at the Roma conference, and they talked about homelessness and how much more crime is being committed, not necessarily for the intent of crime as much as for people crying out for help and seeking places to stay. All of these things are growing. As we're talking about homelessness, all these things factions are growing in society. And I think eventually, cameras will become kind of more commonplace and more required. Protection of citizens, protection of homeless, various things that could happen. I'm just not sure where they're legally yet.
I think so. Our IT manager and I are currently working on an updated video surveillance policy, because the municipalities dates from 2011, and the rules have changed substantially since then. So I am hoping I'll get that to you by the end of the year. I'm hoping. And so that'll probably give a bit more of a broad sense, because I'll include some of the guidance that the IPC's provided so that you guys can actually see what that says. There are some very the example that I keep using, and we have the police ask us about our cameras on a fairly regular basis as well. And when the Information and Privacy Commissioner talk about it, they say that, if we've got a camera in, say, the office parking lot, because we're concerned about garbage dumping or vandalism to vehicles and so on, that camera can only go as far as the edge of our property. If it goes onto the sidewalk and somebody is walking past on that sidewalk, then we're invading their privacy. And so if the OPP, for instance, are looking for a vehicle, if we can see it on our camera, we've probably got a camera somewhere we shouldn't have one. So it's a really complicated thing that we need to work our way through. And we're also associated with this updating, and council approved some money for that in the budget this year, updating a lot of our cameras because a lot of them are old and we have 17 different recording mechanisms, whereas now much of this can be done in the cloud through one centralized system, which makes it much easier to turn them on and off or move them around and things like that. So stuff is coming. The bit about sort of security and monitoring, I think there is a value to that. My personal opinion, and sort of with my well-being hat on, is that video surveillance should always be the last resort, because we should invest money in trying to solve the determinants of crime and to try and help us avoid those situations first, rather than trying to find ways of monitoring people to sort of catch them in the act, kind of thing.
One more go.
One more. Thanks, Mayor Kentner. So I wasn't going to bring this up. I should have maybe brought it up when the sergeant of the OPP was here. So Meaford has about 7% of the population of gray Bruce. And the numbers we were given today are gray Bruce. We have a much higher percentage of incidents than 7%. Sometimes 14, sometimes 20, sometimes 50%. So there is issues. Yes, we are a safe area. Are these figures produced showing that the OPP are spending more time in the municipality than other municipalities, and that's where the incidents are occurring? But I just think the more help we can give them, the better. And I just, if it's possible in any way, shape, or form, I'd like to advance what Councillor Urick is bringing up. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify on the policing stats, the percentage of the stats there are not relevant to the percentage of the population in Grey and Bruce. Those stats are for the Grey Bruce detachment, which doesn't cover all 17 municipalities in Grey and Bruce. So the stats don't include the City of Owen Sound, the Town of Hanover, the Municipality of West Grey, or the Town of Saugeen Shores, because they all have their own police forces. And it doesn't include municipalities like Huron-Kinloss and South Bruce, which are covered by the South Bruce detachment. So if our figures are 14% of that, I think probably actually that is probably below our share. But I haven't done the math on the population that particular detachment covers.
Thanks for that clarification. That's good. Yes.
That's really important to say, because this is genuinely a safe community. And as the sergeant did say today, we do have lower numbers than in many, many places locally.
Councillor Bell?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, Big Brother is going to watch. So we in our society, we go to a gas station, we're on video. We go to a bank, we're on video. Should you decide to go to the liquor store, you're probably on video. Good people have nothing to fear. Perpetrators have everything to fear. And we do live in a safe municipality, and bad things happen to good people. And I can see you bringing this forward from a tourism aspect of have a look here and how neat that is, and see a parade and all of that stuff. But really, it's I thank the acting CAO for clarifying too just where the camera will be pointed and the invasion of privacy. So when this came up, all I could think about was watching movies called The Bourne Supremacy, where he couldn't go anywhere in London with camera 9 to camera 64, and they had him going up the stairs of a library. Well, that's pretty wild stuff, and it's movie stuff. But
it's not movie stuff. It's very, very true in London in particular.
So on this one, Mr. Urick, I think I can support you, even though there's another eye being placed on us. And like I said, good people don't have anything to fear. And I think that if we do this, my only thing will be this will be another item for consideration for costs in 2024, and I'm correct on that,
Perhaps.
perhaps.
Until we look into, or until we finish looking into new systems and what they can and can't do, and what the cloud implications are, and whether we need internet infrastructure in somewhere where we want to have a webcam, say on the front of Meaford Hall, for instance. I just don't know. It would depend on whether we need additional internet connections, or the cameras themselves aren't that expensive these days. They're a lot less than they used to be.
On the next item, this is my motion, and it is extremely wordy. And so, should I exit my seat here to read this? And, let the
If
deputy
you
mayor-
wish to, absolutely, and then the deputy mayor would assume the chair for this purpose. The other alternative, which we've used in the past, is that you just see if somebody else will move it and second it to get it on the floor, and then that's fine. That's probably easiest.
Is there a mover then for mine? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder, Councillor Bartley. So the motion is, whereas Shift Solar Inc. is proposing to construct and operate a long-term reliability project under the long-term request for proposals LT1 RFP issued by the Independent Electric System Operator ISO. And whereas pursuant to LT1 RFP proposals that receive the formal support of the local jurisdictional authorities of all the projected communities in which the long-term reliability project is located, in the form of a support resolution, be awarded rated criteria points for the purpose of ranking the proposal in relation to other proposals for a contract under the LT1 RFP. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Meaford supports the development, construction, and operation of the long-term reliability project on municipal lands 143006 Superior Street, Owen Sound, and that this resolution's sole purpose is to enable the proponent to receive rated criteria points under LT1 RFP or to satisfy its obligations under any awarded LT1 contract, and may not be used for the purpose of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal or long-term reliability project, or for any other purpose. Rated criteria points will be used to rank the proponent's proposal in relation to other proposals received by the ISO under the LT1 RFP. That's it. Do we have some discussion on this at this point?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, thank you. This does appear to be a complicated motion, but I think we have had Bogdan Deneau present here at Council, and I think we've all talked with him and understand what his intentions are. And we do have, and Mr. Smith will help me with the gentleman's name, we did have presentation from the gentleman who owns the property where this would be located, and he is in favor of going forward with this project. And we also recognize the importance of this letter to the proponent, Bogdan Deneau, as he goes forward and seeks approval from ISO. So it'll be up to ISO to make this decision. So I don't have issue with the municipality at this point adding a support letter to his application. We recognize that he is attempting to create a 100 megawatt capacity project. And I think we all know the need in the community for additional power. We've heard about that loud and clear. So I will be voting to go forward with support of this. Thank you.
Where you and I don't differ on a whole lot of things over a long period of time, so today's going to be number 2. I can't support this in its the way it is. I have here something that I've kept for quite a while, and for those of you who wish to look it up, I'm going to clearly tell you where the information was. It was in a publication called The Rural Voice, and it was published on June of this year. And just to show my fellow councillors, I'm not cherry picking from this article. The article says that quite generally, these types of proposals for battery storage facilities, they range anywhere between 10 and 30 acres. It also says in this article that from a regulatory standpoint, battery units are no different from a transmission line. And yes, they do need a municipal approval. Battery facilities are best fitted in rural areas and not in cities, but near transmission lines. So those of us who have went out to the Warlow farm, there's been many, many times when proposals come before this council and we hear the voice of the neighbors around an area with all kinds of reasons why it doesn't fit. They don't want it, the noise, the sound, the light, on and on and on. So take a drive out there, Superior Street and Highway 6 and 10, and take a look at the Warlow farm. Take a look down Highway 6 and 10. You got Joe's Garage on the left-hand side there, heading south. Across the way, you've got the former abattoir for the horses that were put down and turned to glue. Not too many people are going to be around this. You're probably not going to hear much opposition to this. So in that aspect, choosing this spot is not a bad spot, but I'm going to speak against it. And I'm going to speak against it because these units, according to this article, the units containing the batteries themselves are stored in units, this article said, in units which are like a sea can, 8 by 8, 40 feet long, and inside are many banks of batteries. These batteries get very hot. They must be cooled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a risk of fire. This article has a picture of a unit on fire. In the article, that photograph happened to have been taken in Australia. So there's a risk of fire. The article said that many of the local fire departments, when a battery bank like this goes on fire, only do one thing. They tell all of the people in the surrounding area to shut their windows and doors. There's a lot of toxins. The other aspect from being a rural person, as we have heard many, many times, how many acres a day we are losing to anything that encroaches upon farmland. Again, take a drive out and have a look at the Warlow farm. You can see that it's under crop. Okay, so it's very productive land that's out there. The other aspect, and this even goes to our cars and trucks that are being made to be battery driven. The article says here that they have a last of about 7 to 10 years. And at this point, currently, there's no recycling program for these batteries, and they potentially could end up in a landfill at the end of their life. That statement could be made to our cars and trucks and other vehicles that are being made. There is no true end game here. So for these things about the risk of fire, the losing of farmland, and there's no end game for the battery bank, I can't support this in saying that we are going to be a willing host to this proposal this afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks, Worship, and thanks for bringing this forward. Nobody needs to tell me about the need for more hydro in our municipality. Mr. Ford's done a good job of that. Population growth of 800,000 a year in our province. Most of them mainly come from the GDA. Need hydro, there's no doubt about it. With the increase in EVs and hybrids, hey, I get it. We're going to need more hydro. This is coming from a chap who for the last 51 years has lived in a home that has had electric heat and nothing else. Hydro is pretty important in our household. We lose, as Councilor Bell mentioned, 320 acres of productive farmland a day, 2,240 a week, 116,480 in the course of a year. Our municipality is 227 square miles in size, 1,000 acres. At the end of the year, we put out a new map of Ontario, and you just simply eliminated 70% of our municipality, just struck it off the map. Seven represents 7 generations. I understand. Also represent that decisions made today the future. I'm just going to add 20 years. Now, I won't be around 20 years, but hopefully my children were, grandchildren will be, and hopefully some grandchildren will be. I'm just going to give you 2 scenarios. Rather sit down in candlelight to a table full of food for the family, or would you rather sit down in a well-illuminated home with no food on that table? Thank you.
The only 2 things that give me kind of hope on this project. One is they already have a decommissioning plan in place, which many storage things do not. And one of it is, and why the owner is in favor is because it is to be reverted back to farmland once it's run its course. So in terms of long-term planning of ag, that kind of stands in its favor. Another thing is they've actually been talking to the Bruce Trail and the NEC, and if they can kind of get them on board, then that to me is a huge hurdle, because those are 2 agencies that are very, very concerned with environmental. Finally, the only thing I will say is battery technology is changing literally by the minute. Over the course of the life of this, it may not be recyclable now. There's every chance that they will be recyclable in the next 10, 20 years, because that technology is changing drastically. So I agree with Mr. Greenfield that power, we talked about homelessness, affordable housing. This is right up there. Power for Ontario is going to be absolutely urgent need. So I can support this, because we do have to support energy initiatives that are going to feed back into the grid.
I also want to echo Councillor Urig's sentiments with regards to the decommissioning process. I had a really good in-depth conversation with Bogdan from Shift Solar, and he explained to me how highly regulated and how stringent the decommission procedure is for these batteries. So there will always be a use for these materials even after they have exceeded their life cycle. But this type of battery storage project is very similar to the Oneida project, and this is a game-changing energy storage project. Just to give you some examples, greenhouse gas pollution from Ontario's existing gas-fired power plants will increase by more than 300% by 2030 and by 700% by 2043. And this is because the province is using gas to replace aging nuclear plants and to meet the growing demand for electricity as population growth, et cetera. Ontario needs these types of energy storage projects. And as Councillor Uhrig was saying, is that technology is literally advancing by the second. So I'm very encouraged by this. And the nice thing about this is the land can be used down the road for agricultural uses if and when this facility is decommissioned. So I think this is awesome. I support it. And I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you ready for the vote? All in favor?
Your Worship, I apologize for interrupting. And with your permission, may I go back to notice of motion?
I believe you can.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do have two today. The first being, I'd like consideration from my fellow councillors to go forward with a subscription to Municipal World. That is a magazine that we used to have arrive in our mailboxes, and I think it's very valuable. And I'd like us. There is a subscription budget line, so I'd like to consider that. And my second notice of motion. As you will recall, a short few weeks ago, we did, through notice of motion, approve continued support in the amount of $50,000 for our Meaford Hospital. And our Northeast Grey Health Centres had been receiving $25,000 annually, and that support ran out in 2023. So I'd like us to consider continued support in the same amount going forward. So those are my two notices. Thank you.
All right. Where are we? So sorry. Items for consideration. Sorry. Oh, there we are. Yes, council minutes, meetings. We've got minutes from July 24, August 28, and September 11. So the recommendation is be it resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby adopt the minutes of the council meetings held on September 11th and the closed meetings held on July 24 and August 28. All in favor? That is carried. Is there anything from the communications agenda? Of confirming bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw 2023-59, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford at its regular and special meetings held in the month of September 2023, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All in favor? And that is carried, and we're ready to adjourn. Thank you.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
Do what you're good at and what you know, and sometimes it's just easier to, with time management, to purchase a few items, whether it's the dessert or whether it's the hors d'oeuvres or whatever you want to do on which end, but just make it easy on yourself. You have enough to do. So we give you a few options that we can help you do that.
Yeah. So normally on Thanksgiving, like our family in particular, it's potluck, right?
Oh.
But there's always the one thing like, oh, geez, I don't want to do dessert. Yep. Or I don't want to do whatever, but that's what you're assigned to do.
I'll do the sweet potatoes.
Oh, yeah. Because you're so sweet. Yeah. But this would be a great option. And I've never seen it set out like that on a charcuterie board, which is
a good idea.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
Well, we do a lot of dessert boards over Christmas, a lot of them. It's just a nice option to have variety. People, it always looks, the presentation looks impressive, so people like to put it out. And you know, you get to try a bunch of different things. It's a nice way to do it.
I have bought these squares before. Like you have, I don't know, maybe 10 different kinds of squares.
Yeah, about
there,
10,
right?
yeah.
So, and I cut them into, and you made this suggestion,
so
which is
big.
great, like in little wee, like bite-sized pieces. And it makes like, so the squares are like this big, right?
Yes.
So it makes maybe 12 individual little, and you put them in the
little cups, yeah.
Yes.
So we do that at the bakery as well. So we can do so this would be a dessert board, but we do an assorted sweet tray as well, which is we take, we have about 10 squares that we use, and then we cut them into 4, and then you get a variety. So, and then it's a big platter that you get. And it's good because then everybody can try a couple. It
Yeah,
keeps it,
they're not
you know-
taking a bite and putting it back.
Well, I hope not. No, no. But
We had
you
a girl
do.
at work that did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We do see people perusing through which one they
drink
wanted.
water to that.
Right, yeah.
That was pretty
Yep.
funny.
But this way's nice, and actually we do these for weddings, corporate stuff. But if someone wanted just one for a Thanksgiving dinner, and they said they had so many people, we can put one together for you.
Nice.
And what is this?
So this is an apple strudel. We do make them in house. It's traditional German dessert. It does have almonds in it.
It smells unbelievable.
My grandmother, who was very
Smell that.
German, Schmidt was the last name.
Oh yeah.
But she made that, and nuts and raisins and apples and
Smell.
So
Wish
the
you
thing
could
I
smell
like
it.
about this versus a pie is pies, when you slice them, are messy.
yes.
So this you can heat it up, and you just cut it like you would slice a piece of bread,
Right.
with a serrated knife, and then it's just a nice firm piece where it doesn't all gush out. I mean, the gushing is nice sometimes, but it just presentation-wise, it's nicer.
And you can heat it up and do that?
Yeah, you can heat it
so
up.
then you can put your ice cream on. And
You can't.
That's right, yeah.
Why ruin it with ice cream?
Well, this actually, it's in the base, in the middle of it has a bit of sponge cake, and then we build the apple over it, and then so you have to take the lattice. There's a special instrument that you do to make it, and you pull it all apart and pull it over. So yeah, they're and they are a labor of love. They're not a quick
No,
make
they
at the bakery, but we do. We always have them, and we also sell them by the slice. So.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But if you're looking for something a little different, than taking a pie, it's a good one to go with.
And I've probably tried almost everything that you've got here. So I don't know what that is.
That is a strawberry rhubarb pie with a lattice top. So these are nice size. So a lot of people, not everyone has a big family. So if you're having a little dinner.
Good for seniors.
Yeah, and they're less, you have less waste, or if it is waste.
or you can mix them up. Like I'm sure you'd have them in like pumpkin and different
Yeah,
kinds.
we'll have pumpkin for sure. We also do a coconut cream. And so right now at the bakery, we always have the strawberry rhubarb. We have apple crumble, which is this one. We have a strawberry rhubarb crumble. We have a lemon meringue, and we have the coconut cream, both in the 5-inch and the big ones.
So, not coconut cream, sorry, the lemon meringue. My mom made amazing lemon meringue pie. Well, do you think I can make meringue?
pie?
So, and David, it was funny. My son was trying to impress
His girlfriend.
his girlfriend.
Yes.
He said, I can make a lemon meringue pie. My mama,
David?
and he's thinking, I can
That
help
you're
him.
gonna do.
Yeah, right? Well, I tell you, I went through a whole set of beaters because it never seemed to come up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And then if you overbeat it,
I think I I was
okay,
a little
I didn't know
aggressive,
that.
maybe.
that's like a cheesecake too. If you overbeat it, it goes the opposite direction.
I
Your
didn't realize-
cheesecake is the best I've ever tasted. And I do buy 4. When you were saying your family and you cut them in tiny little pieces, I take hers and I cut it in half. Because it's my husband will say, what? What do you cut it in 4, and it's like, are you kidding me right now? Because it's so good.
Yeah, well, you sell a ton of cheesecake.
Yeah.
And that's what this is right here?
No.
Well, that's a different one. The cherry cheesecake
Cherry
is probably what
cheesecake
you're
is
referring
to
to.
die for. It's
Yeah.
so
We
light.
did try it in
It's,
studio.
it's almost something that everybody's grandparents made.
Yes. Yeah.
Like there's some nostalgia
Yes.
to it. So it's a
Right.
big seller. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
But it is one of those things, if you over whip it, it goes the other way.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Okay, I
that.
did not know
Yeah.
that.
You've got a special ingredient there that normally you have that specific cheesecake, but hers is so fluffy, because you get that cream cheese and
Right,
whatever else
right.
they put at Cool Whip or whatever. But yours is so fluffy and so good that you're going to want to eat the whole thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I have.
Now, the butter tarts, are they
Yes.
made in-house?
Yep. Most of our stuff is made in-house. Some of the cakes we do bring in, but most of the stuff is made in-house.
Okay.
These are coconut raspberry. And we, the nice thing about, we do have bigger versions of these things, but it's nice when you want to do a board and try different things.
That's true. I get
So
that.
I have bought Creighton is a huge butter tart. He will
So
never
is Sid.
admit it,
Yeah.
but he loves butter tarts.
Yeah.
So,
People are funny about butter tarts.
I bought yours before, but they're like this big.
Yeah, they're
It's like that
I think
big,
they're
right there,
they're about
right?
a 4-inch,
Wow.
but some people are very anti-raisin,
Oh.
on a butter tart.
Oh, of course.
okay.
Yes,
Of
but
course.
we are committed to the raisin.
Well, some like runny, some like them thicker. It's funny when you'd ask people, how do you like your butter tarts? And it's no raisins and I like them runny. Well, I'll eat them anyway, but I'm just thinking, or some like pecans.
Yeah, we do actually have one with a pecan as well.
Yeah.
But there is nothing that smells better than
Than
a
a
butter
raisin.
tart cooking. I actually am feeling a little.
Yeah.
And then they overflow just a little bit, and the sugar crystallizes on the tray, and that's what I eat.
She doesn't eat the whole tart. That's how she stays so slim.
I would be fighting you for it. It's like, move over, Sophie. I've got this.
It comes out, and you go pick at the little pieces around it, not the tart. Yeah, it's the best part.
And then you've got, what is this?
That is a coffee cream crunch.
Oh,
That's new.
what's the crunch?
Yeah, it's almost like it's got crispy crunch.
Ooh.
in it. And it's on the top as well.
Ooh. You know, our cameramen right now are just thinking, let me at it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we can try it out after.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
don't want it to go to waste.
You're not getting
And I do
any
want to
guys.
mention that you do cookies, an amazing variety of cookies. And
Yeah. Do
remember
you?
when she did the fundraiser and
yes.
you missed it,
No.
but she made all these cookies that we sold.
I was
Oh,
there.
You were there for that
I was
one.
there.
Okay.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
did pumpkin cookies.
Yes.
Yeah. So we
Yes, you
do.
did.
And you can pre-order them, but we do. You know, people sometimes if there's an event or promotion, like we did with Kind and Caring, as a promotion for housing.
Yes.
And
yes.
we did hearts for them, and then with their logo and stuff on them. So you know, that kind of thing is also very nice.
Yeah, and you did the blue and yellow, like the flag
For Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah, we did
Yeah. Just so we know that Sophie is part of the Chocolate Lover Society, and she donates so much of her food towards the
Yes.
community. And this is amazing. But what I positively love about you is how caring you are and what you do for the community. And
Oh,
so
thank you. That's
Yeah.
nice.
I really do. Like, this is wonderful, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, I'm in good company, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank
Let's
you.
dig in.
Let's dig in. So thank you so much.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Long way from Nashville and Mama, I tell you that. Performed from Montreal to Boston to Los Angeles. But Toronto, that's my chosen home. Sure, when I'm walking down Yonge Street, I see some funny people who have the nerve to point the finger at me. And grin and smile and whisper. My song was #2 on local radio. Sold 10,000 in Toronto alone. Turned down Ed Sullivan because they asked me to remove my makeup. Wouldn't do American Bandstand because of their segregation policies. I was just being me, never tried to explain myself to anyone. And besides, none of that to worry, Jackie, because I know I look good. Got a new way of loving, baby. Thought I want to teach it to you.
Jackie Shane was a pioneer transgender soul singer, a central figure in the Toronto R&B scene. She helped shape what we know as the Toronto sound.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Join me for my next show, Thursday evening at 7 o'clock on Rogers TV.
Welcome back. And I can't tell you how excited I am that we've got this wonderful lady, Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy
She's one of
is
my
just
favorites.
one of my favorites. She is the heart and soul of the Chocolate Lover Society besides Lois. But she is just an amazing person, and I love you to death. Love you to death.
I love you guys too.
Today we're actually going to be, Nancy is going to be showing us how to make a table arrangement for our Thanksgiving table.
That's
And
beautiful.
this is the one she's already got that I think is stunning. But now she's going to take us step by step on what she does.
So first, I want a little background on you had a flower shop, right?
My brother and I in Collingwood had Smart's Flowers for 45 Years.
Wow.
How can that be when you're only 50?
I don't get
I
it.
know.
Yeah. He must be a lot
Child
older
labor.
than you.
Oh, he is, and he looks it.
Yeah.
So smart flowers. Okay,
Smart
so
flowers.
that's where you learned how to do all the
He
arrangement?
actually taught me. And my brother, Rick, is in construction. And if that man with big fat hands can make bows that would surprise any woman, then we can do it, right?
Wow.
Right, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Absolutely.
So you've already got the greens in here. I just want
Yes.
you to know that I owned a flower shop as well.
Yes.
And it was in Kitchener-Waterloo.
I did not know that.
Yes, yes. And I actually took a flower arranging course. So I know the difference between symmetrical, asymmetrical, and I actually even made cornhole, not cornhole, that's a game.
We don't want to talk about it.
Corn husk wreaths for Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
which is-
you should be doing
Absolutely
it.
not.
Here you go.
Many,
You're
many
the expert
years.
here.
But you do such a beautiful job. I just walk us through it, what you would do. So
Okay.
the greens are here, and they're always done first.
Okay, so you know what's interesting is she started doing that. I'm like, don't do that yet, because a lot of people don't even know how to do that.
Well, we get Sahara. And
Is that what this
leather.
is?
And
Okay.
this is, actually, it's the
Oasis?
design Oasis.
Yes.
And we put that in first. It's wet.
Okay, so you soak it first?
Yes.
Yes.
Or do you put water in there?
No, I soak it. And
Okay.
then you can add water
Oh,
afterwards.
okay.
Yes.
And then this is leather.
Leather?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's called leather.
Called leather.
Okay.
And
It's like my pants.
yeah.
But it's not half as sexy as
No,
yours.
no, sorry.
Right?
So we'll redo this.
So
and
as you
just
put the water
cutting.
in there, it'll keep the
Yes.
everything green?
And
And
that's why
wet.
you add water during the
Oh,
week
okay.
or whatever, just to
Yeah.
keep the flowers fresh.
Did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah. So
Can you reuse those?
you shouldn't.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Because once you stick,
They're holy.
yeah, and you stick stick something into the oasis, and if you want to move it, you have to move it right out and
Yeah.
put it into another area that hasn't been
Okay.
used.
Good tip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you get a block.
Okay.
So,
So you want a nice base.
yes.
To me,
and
it
this
looks
is-
like Boston fern or something.
It does.
but yeah.
You can use fern.
Yeah.
You can use any of the
Anything.
greens around the house, even outside.
Live
So-
over
Oh,
here.
that's a good idea because
All
I've got lots of stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I'm
get
just
on
going to
it.
stick this here to fill in that.
Would like
and the more
you know
greens,
those,
the better.
I agree.
The Boston ferns that we have that are going to be thrown in the
Yep.
right. Can you use that?
Yep.
Yep.
Do you not weather them over? for the
No. How do
winter?
I do that?
Bring them in?
Oh, you got to bring them in.
Yeah. Sorry. I know.
Ice does not
It's a
do them
novel
well.
idea.
And then you start, like, symmetrical is the same down on both sides.
Yes.
Asymmetrical is if you would have put it here.
Right.
And then had it flowing that way.
That's
Yeah.
right. But I have found that when we first started doing arrangements, there was the 5 flowers around
Yes.
here.
Yep.
But now it's more freestyle.
And it's never even.
No.
Never even.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You always do odd numbers.
So what are you doing now? You're trimming the stems.
Yes, so that they have a clean cut on an angle, so they'll take up the water.
Okay. So basically, you just bought a bouquet of flowers.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're doing it from a bouquet
Yeah.
you can pick up anywhere. But
Absolutely.
you actually got all these from a florist, right?
Yes,
What
from my
florist was that?
friend in Meaford. And
Okay.
she's Nancy Ellis, and she used to work in some of the banks here in town.
Oh.
But anyways, her flower
And then
shop.
got a lot of money from the banks to
I
make
think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she wishes. As you know, you don't make a whole lot of money.
No, you don't. No.
It's a lot of work.
So you're trimming them down, like, so this whole stem, oh, well, it's only got one, but this one,
Yeah,
you
you
could
got,
get-
look at all the pieces you
Right,
can put in
okay.
there.
And all the different lengths and
heights and
yeah.
and if you break a flower,
yeah, I think I broke
Short.
a flower right there.
like if you break a flower like this,
It's at the front or the side
so we
or the
just
back.
stick it
and-
right in
Yep.
deep.
Nice.
Or behind your ear.
Do you know I love yellow
could do
carnations?
that.
I don't like the smell.
I don't like
It reminds me
carnation.
of funeral homes.
Oh, it's lilies that do that to
Oh,
me.
is it?
Yeah,
Oh.
lilies. You know what,
But I think-
Creighton, he hasn't bought me flowers in a long time, but what he would buy
I
was
haven't got any either. Shut up. Does your
Freesias.
husband do that?
Every month I get
Freesias.
flowers.
Every month.
Every month.
Did
I
you
get a
hear
bouquet
that,
of
guys?
flowers.
George.
I know.
George is amazing.
He
Marry me,
is.
George.
Sorry, I'm not giving him up. So,
What can I
then
do?
we
What can I
just
do to
start
help?
filling in. Make
Yeah.
the flower.
With
But on the
anything.
other hand,
Yes.
you can do this.
Okay.
Let's see
Yeah.
what Lois can do.
Okay.
And something else we can do to decorate our table is go out and get some leaves.
Yeah, you can get them at the dollar store.
Well, and
all different
even
colors.
outside.
Oh, real leaves.
And do you
That's
remember
work.
we used to put them with wax paper and
Yes, we
iron
did
them?
for school.
That's
Yes.
what I do.
Do you?
And then they're around the table.
Yeah, I've done that.
So
Yeah, but I bought fake. And what is this?
this is, I forget.
It's some sort of a grass or
Oh, it's called
what is it called?
Can you remember?
sugar. Yeah.
At any rate,
Not at this moment.
So what do you do with that then?
I was going to say you can tie this up on your napkins and just put a flower
Oh,
with it.
Yes.
right on your
Shut the
napkins.
front door.
Let's do one. Let's do one.
Let's do one.
Okay.
Let's get rid of this bad boy. Or
Yeah.
do you want that out?
Yeah, those are guard petals. They
Guard.
keep the flower from not getting bruised.
Oh.
So that always
that's
comes
cool.
off.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
And
knew
then-
that.
I
though.
do that, but
Well,
hey,
don't
it's
act
Lois.
like you don't know.
It's Lois.
Diane.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Again, Lois.
another day.
Gonna break out
Lois
in a
is-
tango.
Yeah, exactly.
There.
Okay, so you've
And
got
I
just a
should-
regular bow.
Yeah.
And then
sort
you
of.
put a flower sort of through that little knot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What a
How about-
great idea.
How about a Kermit?
a what?
This is a Kermit.
Oh.
Kermit the Frog. And this would be Miss Piggy because it's so
Yeah.
flamboyant.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's a beautiful smell.
see, you can do something cute like that.
Oh, neat.
Where's my knife? Can I borrow
Oh,
the knife
yeah.
for a minute?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
wheat.
Lois, pretty.
You can get wheat from outside and put in your arrangements, or we can have,
Look at the wheat.
yeah, artificial in this case.
Still, but it's Thanksgiving. It's
Yeah.
indicative to Thanksgiving because
I'm
of
just
the...
throwing everything in. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Go for it.
lovely.
See?
Anything is
See,
goes,
you
right?
can do it.
Anything. Yeah.
I love how you just bought. Like, I mean, we've seen these everywhere, right?
Yes.
Like, so.
Yeah. And who knew?
Just
So
a
where do you get
bouquet.
these? If you don't have a florist close to you, where can you get these
Grocery
green?
store?
No, the green, the
Oh, the
blocks
greens.
or whatever.
Oh.
Blocks.
Probably Michael's.
Michael's?
Michael's.
And
Okay.
that's where these came from.
That is,
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
so cool. I want one of those. That is. Now,
Well,
what
how
about
do
these?
you two take these? That one's yours and that one's yours.
No.
Yeah.
Oh
Guess
my
what?
gosh.
It's been arranged.
What if I don't like
Tell
mine?
me about these.
These are
Too
great.
bad.
Great for around the house.
Oh,
that one's
boo.
a
That's a Halloween
one.
That's a Halloween one, which is really cute. I love it. But look at these with the Thanksgiving colors, and
know.
I love those. I have some of these for Christmas,
Yes.
and I sort of have them sitting
the
on my
gnomes.
mantle on my fireplace.
Oh, that's nice.
And they're so adorable. But these are adorable. Any table, anywhere.
oh, yeah. On
Yeah.
a side table,
Yeah.
entrance.
Entrance, I have a table in my entrance that I would put these on.
I
and
don't have
I have
an
a little
entrance.
welcome.
You've got a grand entrance.
Entrance. Yours is just a ballroom. Yeah.
That's what happens
These
when
are
you're
so
married
cute.
to a builder.
Yeah, true. George, marry me. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
I love it.
Oh, that's pretty, Lois. But I would
Yeah.
add
you
more
can't have
flowers.
it. She said I
Yeah,
already
you
know.
have to put some Kermits in.
Okay.
Pull out the
some
arrangements,
lilies.
Lois, so we can see it.
Yeah.
That
Hold on,
is
I'm not ready
gorgeous.
yet. I'm not ready.
Oh, she's not ready.
No. I got to
Yeah.
do the
Don't
big
think-
reveal, but
Okay.
I've
we have
done
1
some
minute,
one.
Lois.
Oh, Jesus
So you
Lord.
can finish that, I think,
Hold
when
up.
we're off camera, because there's still a lot. That's
Look,
gorgeous.
this isn't supposed to be
That
like
is
that.
so
There we
fall.
go.
So fall. And I love the pumpkin
Oh,
wagon.
Yeah.
She's
So
done a
anyway.
great job.
can't
Anybody
thank
can do it.
Anybody. Well, if Lois can do it, anybody
Oh,
can
that's
do it.
right. Well, yeah.
There you go, kiddo.
Thank you, Nancy, my
You're
friend,
very
our
welcome.
friend. So this is wonderful. I just can't thank you enough. You are our doll. You are.
we'll
we love
see
you.
them.
You made us look good.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll do it again at Christmas.
Yes,
Let's do it.
They have to tune into Christmas.
Yeah,
now,
for
what
sure.
I'm going to do is, what's coming next is thank you all for joining us. And the band that's going to be playing after this is Oh Deadly. And they're new to us. I have heard them. They're very good. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Well, I took a stroll on the old long walk of the day. Hey. Met a little girl and we stopped to talk of a fine soft day. Hey, that's cute, friend. Tell me, what would you do when her hair's black and her eyes were blue? Well, I knew right then, yeah, I've been taking a whirl around the Salt Hill Prom with the Galway girl. Halfway there when the rain came down of the day. Hey. She asked me up to her flat downtown of a fine soft day. Hey, ask you, friend, tell me, what would you do when her hair's black and her eyes were blue? Well, I knew right then, yeah, I've been taking a whirl around the Salt Hill Prom with the Galway girl. All alone day, hey, with a broken heart and a ticket home. When I ask you now, tell me, what would you do if her hair's black and her eyes were blue? Well, I've traveled around, I've been all over this world. Boys, I ain't never seen nothing like the Galway girl.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Are you low on food? Struggling to pay the bills? Overwhelmed by life's challenges? When you need support but don't know where to turn, just dial 211. 211 connects you to the programs or services near you.
211, how can I help you?
211, help starts here.
Hi, I'm Krista McKee of Wandering Grey Bruce. This season, we will be meeting some really interesting people. We're going to go visit Thornbury in the Clarksburg area, just to name a few. We will be going glamping, learning about some garlic, and checking out some live edge furniture.
And you can see all the little wormholes in here.
and it's smooth. Watch us on Rogers TV or online.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Her Story, the journey to winning a seat at the table. I'm your host, Mary J. Murray, and this program is a series of conversations with inspirational women with amazing stories to share. And stories are a tapestry of lifelong events and experiences. So let's explore the journey. My guest today is Sharon Skelly. And she has lived in the Grey Bruce area for over 30 years. She is a retired registered nurse, a community volunteer, a freelance writer. I didn't know that about you, Sharon, and a local environment activist, as well as being a community health educator. And along with all of those other things, Sharon also finds time to host and as the host and community producer of the TV program Community Close-Up here on Rogers TV. And, you know, over the years, we often see very accomplished women in interesting roles. And that spark can emerge at any age and at any stage. And this is Sharon's journey. Welcome, Sharon. Did we catch it all?
Yeah, most of it, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for taking the time. And as I mentioned to Sharon off camera, and we are now on camera, that Sharon was the inspiration for the third season of Her Story. When in general conversation, she was telling me about this amazing community that she grew up in. So Sharon, why don't we start off with telling us about the community that you grew up in?
Okay, I will. I was born in Sudbury and I was raised in a small community. Well, it's 3,600 people, but it's about 25 miles, I don't know kilometers that well, northeast of Sudbury. It's called Capreol, Ontario. And it's a small CN railway town. It's quite a big stop though on the railway route, east-west Canadian railway route. And I'd say about 75% of the people in the town work for CN, and the other 25% work for a small mine. I believe the mine may have stopped production of iron ore. It was called, for one part of its life, it was called Moose Mountain Mine, and then it went to National Steel. I think it's starting to open up production again. But if you actually follow the road up to Capreol and then go a little north, the road actually ends. It's the end of the road. But the people in Capreol, as I said, most of them work for the railroad. And so they were either people that operated the trains, the Trans-Canada passenger train or the freights, or they cared for the trains. They were carmen, we called them. They cleaned the trains. They kept them in good operation. Or they kept the tracks in good operation. But a lot of them were immigrants. And they were not as the immigration we see today, which is visible minority, but they were people from Eastern Europe or Mediterranean areas. So we had neighbors that were from, say, Portugal, Italy. A lot of people were from, say, Lithuania, Ukraine, and a lot of people didn't speak English. So the men would come over and get these jobs that didn't require a lot of technical skill, and they would do the we would say grunt work, and they would really work hard every day, and their wives would be at home, and they didn't learn to speak English. There was no ESL, nothing for them. And a lot of these ladies, friends of mine, their mothers never did learn to speak English. And they had these boxcar houses. They were literally boxcars made into houses. So my house was a small house, very modest, not the size of a wartime house, smaller than that. A lot of the houses were like that. And I literally lived on the other side of the tracks. Like the tracks were there was a road, and there was my house. So we were in a very modest neighborhood. But interspersed with my house were these boxcar houses, and they're still there today. You can tell when they have realtors have for sale signs. I can pick out houses that are boxcar houses, and they've just added like little porches and little add-ons in the back, but you can tell which ones are boxcar houses, and they made these houses their homes. But a lot of the immigrants had the best gardens. Like they'd have the green beans growing really high, and the ladies would have them tied up with their nylons. Like they knew how to do the really good gardens. But as I say, they never did learn to speak English. And if they had a death in the family, the ladies would wear black seem forever. You know, their culture was deeply ingrained in our community. So it was a wonderful community to live in. And so close to us was Sudbury, which is another multi-ethnic community. And my brother, my sister, and I all went to high school because we were Catholic. My mom and dad wanted us to have a Catholic upbringing. We went to school in Sudbury, and there again with the mines, same thing. They came over from Europe, and a lot of my friends' mothers, to this day, like a lot of them are passing away now. They never did really learn to speak English. So, but in our town, there was also French. A lot of people don't realize that once you hit, say, Sundridge, North Bay, it's a bilingual. I mean, if you don't speak French, you know, that's just the way it is. And our school was St. Mary's École Saint-Marie, and the one side of the hall was the French kids and the other side was the English kids. And at recess, it was just madness. Everybody played together. And when we went to church, the priest said half the sermon in French, half in English. So you learned to speak French. It was like French immersion, just the old fashioned way. Everybody just played and fought and dated, and everybody learned French that way. But it was a great place to grow up. And it was really multicultural. We learned about their food, their life, their everything. But a lot of these people, they never even got back home. That was them coming here, and there was nothing for them. Just they came here, they worked, and they never saw their families again.
Well, it's sad for the people who came over and were never able to return back to their home country. But at the same time, it seems that they actually built a life, very hardworking, very dedicated, building community, even if they weren't speaking English, but they were building community within their own network of friends and language and culture. And that must have been very impactful for you when you were growing up. And I can see how it has shaped some of your views and attitudes as you became an adult.
It did, and it makes you appreciate it made us appreciate what we had, but it also, well, we learned a lot about the other cultures, but it makes me appreciate the immigrant experience that I'm seeing now, and I know how hard it is for them. And I totally understand I can appreciate what they're going through, and it makes me want to support the services that they're getting even more, because I know what it would be like for them not to have it.
Well, yes, and I think that as a community we do come together to support newcomers coming into our community, and I really value your concern for diversity and inclusion within our community. But also just reflecting back a little bit more, eventually you grew up and you left the community. And so if we have a retired registered nurse as part of your background, why or how did you get into nursing?
Well, my mother's from a family of 10, and she had 5 sisters, and they were either nurses or teachers or, that era. So I thought, well, I'll be a nurse. But I left when I was 17 and I never went back home. We all left home. I have a brother and a sister, and we all left home when we were in our none of us left after 18. So we all left really early. And I went to nursing. They called it nursing school. I went before it was a college. I was in the last class at a nursing school associated with a hospital and the first year of a college. So I went into that transition. It was a really unique way to be at school. I was in a high school that had all girls, run by nuns, which was, I loved it. It was the best. They were the most feminist people you will ever meet. They encouraged us to be whatever we wanted and be strong and all of that. And then I went to nursing school, all nuns, and they knew that I was young and they pushed me, and I was angry because I said they were hard on me, but I was 17. What did I expect? And then the next year of my college, it was a college and there were boys. So you can imagine that. First time. Oh. And I had fun. But then when we graduated, there were no jobs, full-time jobs for any of us in Ontario. So there was this big book and it had all the hospitals in the country. So a group of us each took a province and applied to hospitals in that province. And one of my friends got New Brunswick, and she got an interview in Fredericton. So I said, can I go with you? And she said, sure. So I went. I didn't even have an interview, but she had her interview and said, oh, I have a friend in the waiting room. Could you interview her too? So she did, and we both got jobs. And my first job was in Fredericton at a brand new veterans hospital. And they were First and Second World War veterans. And that was my first job. But then I went to Moose Factory and I worked in the remote north for years. And then I went to another small hospital, but it wasn't remote north, it was Hornpain. And that was where I met my husband. And since then I've been traveling around the country. I worked out in Calgary and then I worked around the province here. But I've had a chance in my nursing career to work in almost every department in the hospital. I was a scrub nurse in the OR. I worked in ICU, pediatrics, psychiatry, ER, everything. And I ended up here. And when I retired from working in the Community Care Access Center, which is community health. So I've had a wonderful nursing career. And I did everything I wanted to do as a nurse, and I did a lot of education too. Of course, you have to. And I've almost finished my degree. I've got 2 courses, and I'm going to do those next year in my spare time.
As we know, the healthcare field is really in the news these days, but it has always been a sense in our province that we don't have enough nurses, or our healthcare is always underfunded, and we haven't had the value given to nurses and people working in the healthcare field the same respect and acknowledgement of not only their skills and talents, but their years of service. So in your journey in nursing, did you ever find that you had a voice, that you were able to be heard in certain circumstances, particularly when you have to advocate for your patients?
Well, when I started nursing, there wasn't even a union. Well, there was, but it was very rare that you worked for a place that had a union. So that was our big concern right there, nurses' rights. So like when I started, in some places, if you were 6 months pregnant, you had to quit. And that was almost standard. And once you quit, when you came back, you had to start back at all the wage increases you had were gone. You had to start back at the bottom again. things like that. Or if you were full-time and you went on maternity leave, which was 3 months, you came back and started back at the wage you were at. Like when I was out in Calgary, I had my daughter, but I was sick before I had her. So I had 3 months off total. So I had a cesarean section and went back when she was 6 weeks old. So those are the things that we fought for. And when I was in Alberta, we went on strike. And because they were going to cut all the night nurse coverage in half. Well, we knew that was dangerous, so we had to go on strike. And, you know, that was, a lot of nurses didn't carry picket signs, and the ones that did, I remember getting tomatoes and eggs thrown at us. And so nurses aren't, when I was working, nurses weren't heroes. Nurses were not heroes. And we would even up until, 15 years ago, it was routine to get punched and kicked and sexually assaulted. I've had all that done at work, and have people say the service here sucks. And like, this isn't a hotel. I mean, I'm your nurse. I'm not, this is not Motel 8 or whatever, 6, whatever it is. But they'd say the service here sucks. Get somebody else. There is nobody else. And then when I came to work here in Grey Bruce, there was no union where I was working. And I had to start, even though I had all this experience, I had to start at the lowest wage. And if I wanted to work overtime, I had to call and get a permission. In the middle of an emergency, I knew I was going to have to work overtime. I was supposed to have to call and get a permission. That made no sense. So with another person and I, we got the nurses certified in the Bruce Peninsula for the Ontario Nurses Association. And in negotiating the first contract, you're at risk of losing your job. Mm-hmm. And I was followed and threatened and all these sorts of things. So, that is something that people may not know. And some of those people aren't walking the earth anymore, so I can say that, and maybe I'll put it in my book someday. But the things that you go through to get those union rights for people are very, very, they are risky for yourself, but you have to do it to get those rights. But I would say that nursing is a very misogynist profession. When I was working, if there was me and a male nurse and the same amount of experience, and we applied for a job, the male nurse would get it. It was routinely. And it just routinely happened. And I suspect it still does. So,
I was hoping that we had come a long way in terms of, okay, so now I better understand some of the struggles that nurses have gone through over the years. And you have that activist spirit in terms of fighting for what you think is right and what is reasonable for accreditation for nurses and respect for nurses, and particularly the wage equality, which is so important as well.
It's better now. It really is better now, but it didn't get there without a big struggle, and they have to fight to keep that.
Yes,
that's the thing. They have to fight to keep what they have.
And of course, there's this concern now in our current healthcare system too, that it's underfunded and under-resourced, and so that battle hasn't ended yet. In terms of not at all. So you've made quite an impact on your journey in nursing, but you've also merged into the field of freelance writing as well. And is that part of your nursing experience, or is that going down a different route?
Well, after I retired, I had to retire because I developed fibromyalgia. And that's not uncommon for when I retired. Several other people retired a lot around that time too, with chronic illness. Nursing is not easy on the body, so I when I retired with a chronic illness, I wanted the chronic illness not to define me. I had to learn how to live with it and still be productive. And disability pensions and that sort of thing want you to be sort of, stuck at home and do nothing. They would prefer you just to be a disability. And I think that we need to sort of work with insurance companies and that sort of thing to let them allow people to be productive. And even if that just means volunteering in the community, but still being members of society that are doing good and making the people feel like they are valuable, and I knew I can write. Anybody that's working can write. And I took a course in writing, but I was already in my third year of university, so I just did some writing. I had a column at the Sun-Times for a while, and I did some Huffington Post stuff, and I still do write. And as I said, I'm going to finish my degree. I've just got a lot of things on my plate right now. But yeah, writing is something everyone can do, and everybody should do. Even if you feel that you're not an academic, everybody should just write something every day. Keep a gratitude journal. Everybody's got something to be happy and grateful for. You'd be surprised.
Well, absolutely. And I have this quote that from you may recognize it. And really, it just speaks to what you've been saying about gratitude and about giving back. It's good for the soul, and it's good to give back. And so whether you're healthy all the time, or whether you have an illness for a long period of time or a short period of time, is that gratitude of feeling that, I'm still a productive, whole and holistic person. I can give back to my community. So you've been volunteering with Rogers for over 10 years, maybe closer to 15 years in various capacities. And in that way, you are supporting the community. And with your TV program, Community Close-Up, which celebrates, features, and highlights not-for-profit organizations that are providing services in our community. So how did you actually get into television?
Well, I watched Rogers, and I thought, wow, that's really, really good programming. I really think it's great programming. And I thought, well, I'd really like to help out there, because I really think it's quality programming, because we no longer have local, affiliates with CTV Global, that sort of thing. And we need to provide this programming to the community. And I thought, well, maybe I can help out there somehow. So that's what I did. And my sister thinks it's great that I'm doing this, because she used to do this, well, on a little bit bigger scale, but she thinks it's great, and she thinks it's great programming too. My brother watches it, all my family watches it, because now they can watch it online. I mean, and the community wouldn't have this if Rogers didn't have volunteers to provide this. And it's not just the people on the screen, it's the people behind the cameras, the people that are out doing the hockey games in Meaford and on Sound lacrosse, Diane and I forget the other lady's name, Lois. Going out and featuring the businesses, Attack Rap, all of that. People love that. And Krista, Wandering Gray Bruce, you guys doing the show on Wednesday. I mean, people love it, and we have to keep doing it. And Mark, if it wasn't for Mark, we wouldn't have any of this. So. Well,
I agree with you there. And he's pretty patient in putting up with all of us, but and working out all the technical details and goof ups sometimes. But
that's how I got into it, watching it and thinking, I think I should do something like this, because I watch it and I enjoy it. So that's how I did it.
You were, I believe, on a camera person at one point, were you not? I mean, that's
not a very good one, but I did do that. Yeah.
Well, you're an excellent host for Community Close-Up, and that's such a valuable asset that we have in our community, because particularly for people who are coming into our community and not being aware of all the services and the not-for-profits and the organizations and what they do in our community, this is a really anchor program to help not only entertain people who are embedded in our community, but for new people who are coming into it.
Yes, and I learn something new every time I do the show. Every time.
Yeah.
I learn something new. So.
Well, that was the very good segue into the next topic of conversation here is, what did you learn about yourself through all of this journey?
I learned that you cannot be successful on your own. You have to have somebody to hitch your star to, so to speak. You have to have people to help you no matter what. So like from the time I was a kid, I had people that supported me and believed in me. Like when I was a kid, I had Father O'Neill was our parish priest, and he thought I was a great reader. And he let me read at church when I was 12. I mean, they never let girls on the altar, and he thought I was good. And he'd coach me by reading the newspaper. I'd read it to him, and he'd sit in the altar or in the choir loft in this big church, and I'd read the newspaper to him and all this stuff. Just, he thought I was a good public speaker. And then I had people throughout my life that supported me, but you can't do things alone. You have to have somebody, if it's a parent or a family friend or someone you trust, you need someone to help you out, believe in you, and find that person. And believe in yourself. It's hard to do sometimes, but you have to.
Well, I think those were very good words of wisdom when you said you have to believe in yourself. And our life's journey, as your life journey, has taken so many twists and turns into so many different areas. And that going from being a registered nurse to a host on TV, Rogers TV, has been, quite a journey along the way. But I am getting the cues that we are coming to the end of the program. A half an hour goes by in a blink, as you know. So I have just a couple of little pop questions for you. And that is, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? My family. My family brings me joy. My grandchildren and my son and daughter and their families.
Yeah. Okay. And, we've all gone through these difficult times over the past 2.5 years, and you have had some challenges in your life as well. So do you have a saying that helps you get through the day and over some of these challenges?
Yes. There's always somebody who has it worse than me. Yeah. It's not that bad.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sharon. It's really been delightful. And the fact that I've known you for almost 5 years now, and I've learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much for spending the time to have this conversation. And I hope that you will join us again next time on Her Story for another amazing journey.
Thanks, Mary Jane.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
My name is Miles Morales, and I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man.
Miles! Want to get out of here?
So wait a minute. There's an elite crew with all the best spider people in it? I'm Spider-Man.
Oh, no way. All of us are.
Being Spider-Man is a sacrifice.
You know, you're the only Spider-Man who isn't funny. We're supposed to be funny.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Rent it now.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Parenting Show. I'm Jennifer Anderson. Joining me on the couch, parenting expert Allison Schaefer.
Good to be back, Jen.
Good to be back. This is, it's not it is a heavy topic, but it's a topic that unfortunately a lot of folks go through, and so we thought it was important to be able to discuss today. We're talking about managing alienation during divorce. So, long title.
Yeah. Yeah, and for the those who aren't exactly sure what we're talking about, you know, alienation is a psychological event of manipulation and sort of brainwashing, whereby one partner, through small insidious actions and thoughts and behaviors, really turns a child against the other parent. You know, and so it is it's a unique and distinct phenomena, and it's very, very hard emotionally on everybody.
So I know you've done the work that you've done for many, many years. I'm sure you've seen a lot of families that have split, have a lot of different dynamics in families.
Yeah.
So not necessarily with every divorce comes parental alienation. There's a lot of very good. It's kind of an oxymoron, right?
Yeah,
good divorce,
I had a good marriage and I had a good divorce.
Yeah.
I've asked my kids and I've said, what do you think we should have done differently? And they were like, nothing. I thought that went swimmingly, you know?
Right.
So there are ways to have a good divorce, and I'm sure if we go through the old episodes, we probably even talked about it.
Yes.
But it also means that there's bad divorces and conflictual divorces, but even those don't mean that necessarily this specific element of alienation is there. You know, so it is so specific, and it goes so against the grain of how kids behave that it really is its own sort of specialty. And it's interesting because you would think that it's almost like you'd have to get trained to be so good, to be so manipulative, to do this to kids, because as you know, we're social creatures and we bond with our parents. And so to break that bond is really not something that is easily done. It really takes quite some sophistication. And yet somehow it happens with both partners. It's not gender specific. And yet there seems to be sort of a personality type that seems to be able to really use their personality, their manipulation, their insidiousness to really, like I said, like brainwash their kids. And unfortunately, kids are actually influenced quite heavily by what they hear. The power of suggestion is strong for all of us, but it's particularly strong for kids. And so this is a really so traumatic for the child. Of course, they just end up sort of hating and resenting the other parent, but that means that's animosity to a parent, and then of course to the parent who's being alienated. You've already gone through a divorce, and now you're losing your kids, emotionally losing your kids. So it's very, very upsetting and disturbing psychologically.
Right, and it doesn't. It sounds weird to say, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes it backfires, right? Sometimes the alienation comes from the parent who's doing and saying these things originally. So it's, sometimes it works in mysterious ways in how the child relates to each parent.
Yeah. Agreed.
I am going to start with questions.
Please,
because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
But let's
We're
start
just
with some of the
into it.
Yes. So questions come from some of our viewers. You have the topics people always send in. So thank you to everybody at home for doing that. My husband told the kids that I don't love them, or else I never would have broken the family apart by our divorce. I told them he is just mad and it's not true, but who will they believe?
So that's a great line. You can see, right? If your mom really loved us, she'd keep us together. You know, this is your mother's fault. She's a terrible person for doing this. This is a sign of no love. This is the kinds of things. But as a single standalone statement, it's just a rotten thing to say.
Right.
So who will the kids believe is not going to, on one statement, I'm not so concerned because they're not building up a whole character profile.
Right.
You know, I really don't think that you need to, like, the thing with alienation is they've already made their mind up by the time the alienation is successful. So defending yourself tends to be a not appropriate strategy.
Okay.
Which is really hard because when people are saying lies about you and saying inaccurate things about you, it's our human response to want to defend ourselves. I don't want my kids to believe this. But, you know, how it goes with belief systems is, you know, you kind of, once you've been convinced, it takes a lot of data to kind of change your mind, and what you're kind of just, the verbal part of that tends to be ineffectual. And so it doesn't mean that you can, not that you're agreeing it, not that you're condoning with what they said, but I might just sort of hold my own equanimity, not be panicked about this one little thing that my kids may or may not be believing, and you know, more respond with an emotional response to try to comfort the kids, not like a tit for tat. Like, it's not a factoid fight. It's an emotionally supportive response. You know, I'm so sorry that you're hearing bad things about me. Sometimes people get angry in a divorce. We all have to make tough decisions, and I'm really sorry that it didn't work out for our family, and I had to make decisions, you know, as best I could. You know, something like that, where I'm still kind of making my point, but I'm so sorry you're upset. I'm so sorry that you're hearing things like this.
So that's not saying, no, you're wrong. I do love you.
Or I mean, hopefully, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully they're hearing I love you all the time.
Right.
So I think one of the things, again, is to try to speak with the parent to say, one of your best defenses is good offense, which means you've got to really be on your parenting game. Do you know what I mean? And so if you always tucked your kids in and said, good night, I love you, you know, I'll see you in your dreams, like, you should still be doing all of that, knowing that those basic fundamental, good morning, I'm so glad to see you, tell me about your day, you know, all those typical parenting things are how we show up in our kids' life, and we have to believe in the power of that. And so that is a buffer against whatever negative things are kind of being thrown at you. So it's very easy to say, are you kidding me? Is that what your father said? He's a big fat liar. I never talked to him. You know, you don't want to get into fueling that. That's not going to be helpful for kids.
Well, and so when I hear the words parental alienation, to me, it comes from a source of anger. Like, it's manipulative, but it's a source of anger, where this sentence, like like your mom doesn't love us anymore. Your mom doesn't, you know, that comes either from anger or from sadness too. Like, that's, and so that becomes a different kind of alienation, where a child might believe that because dad is just so sad. And he's heartbroken, so therefore it must be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to know what a child's going to believe or not believe, because, as you know, we've talked to the show, that it's so subjective.
Right.
But you're not going to, like I said, the power of the bond between parent and child is so strong that no one statement is going to break that.
Right.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. It has to be insidious. It has to be constant. There's other qualities to it. And again, when we look at alienated child and we interview them and trying to find out whether or not this is just, you know, somebody being, you know, toxic, or whether they're really doing this with a concerted effort and being successful at it. Like, usually a child will defend their parent. You know, like if you're mad, like lots of teenagers are mad at their parents and call their parents bad names or whatever, but they still love their parent and they will defend their parent when you're asking, you know, it's like, I'm allowed to say mean things about my mother, but don't you say anything mean about my mother.
That's right.
You know, so we start to see that disappears, and that is not, that's not how children typically act. Even children that have been sexually abused don't answer that way, right? So that bond is very strong. It takes a lot to kind of break it. But again, people can be very successful at it.
Right. Okay. Another question for you. I am not a perfect parent, but my children say terrible things about me. How do I know if these ideas are being planted in my kids' heads by their mother?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the content of what they're saying, because there's certain things where you would say, like, you would never know that, or you would never use that language. Like if they say, like, you know, you're a term, I'm trying to think of one, like a spendthrift or something, and you're like, why would a 4-year-old know the word spendthrift, or, you know, something like that, where it's like you're regurgitating something you've heard, or, you know, you wouldn't know anything about this habit of mine or that idiosyncratic this or this piece of our family history. So for you to be throwing that at me means you've heard somebody else talk about that quality of me, and you can pretty much trust your gut. It's like, that's not sounding like what comes out of a kid's mouth. That's sounding very much like what comes out of an adult's mouth.
Right.
And again, I would write all those things down. And part of, you know, being able to successfully recapitulate is, you know, you want to protect yourself, you want to protect the children, you want to protect your relationship.
Right.
And, you know, you may end up needing to get full custody if this is what's happening in the other home. And the only way you're going to do that is you have to be able to prove that you've got alienation. You've got to collect those facts. You've got to, you know, keep records, keep track, get legal counsel. It's expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's expensive, but you've got to protect yourself.
But what are the first stages? Like, what are you writing it down for? Do you confront?
No, I would not confront.
Okay.
No, I would let lawyers, because, you know, we're talking, this is, again, if you thought like talking to your ex in a toxic relationship was difficult, you're pretty much going to just have to either go with a mediator in the room or go through legal counsel. By the time you've gotten to this, you haven't been able to be peaceful and agreeable, amenable on anything. So those conversations, I would keep those to an absolute minimum. So bring in the professionals, bring in people that are case specific, and they will give you, here is what I need to have, this is what I need in order to make a case for you.
Right. At
dollars an hour?
No, I'm at 330 shows that we've done together. I know as I ask a question that you're going to go, no.
Am I giving it away? Do you know me that well?
I just know as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, she's not going to like this. She is not going to like this one. Okay, another question for you. Yeah. When I go to my children's sporting events and my ex is there at the same time, my children ignore me. Should I keep going?
So here again, you know, when you're having split loyalties is really, really difficult for kids, right? And so if they feel that they're going to get punished by one parent by showing any attention or affection to the other one, it's going to be that fear that's going to keep them from, you know, so that you get ghosted. I believe that, again, you don't want to orient your parenting in a way that is due to or responsive from what your partner's doing, because then they're succeeding. Right? They're trying to get you out of the kid's life, and now you're not showing up because it's uncomfortable. But if I said to you, should parents go to their kid's sporting event? And you go, yes. Is it sometimes uncomfortable because of this situation? But I would still show up. I know it's putting some strain on the kids, but in the end, again, hopefully if we're keeping track and you're working with the courts and you're trying to end this alienation, they're going to say, you know, the one thing about Mom is she was consistent. She always came to our games. Right? As opposed to see, and she never even came to our games.
It's proof.
It's proof. It's proof. She didn't come, you know. So I know sometimes it's you know, darned if you do, darned if you don't. Is that how we say that on TV?
We do on TV.
Yeah, because on the one hand, they're going to be like, oh, mom shows up and it makes it really uncomfortable for us. But on the other hand, if she doesn't show up, then we're really sad that she didn't come.
Yeah, and there's also a difference in how you act at those games. If you're, if you're just there and watching and, versus buying popcorn at the stand and interacting and being forceful and that becomes a different uncomfort level.
Yeah, how much you're going to insert yourself, and that's a lot of, again, those are alienation techniques too, when they they confiscate your phone, so they might buy a second phone so that they're cutting off contact when you have your custodial visits, and reading everything. And giving negative comments about everything and doing interpretations of everything that's going back in a text exchange between parents. Those are all just like small examples.
You talked a little bit about the courts. There is a question here about the courts, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about how parents get help.
Yeah.
I am still fighting in court for proper child support. My kids are being told that I am trying to bankrupt their father and make his life miserable when I just want what is fair. I don't want to get into the details of the divorce with the kids, but I feel I have to defend myself. Help.
Yeah. So again, here, like, why would a child know that, right?
Right.
It means that this negative talk is happening to the kids, and this is inappropriate content for our kids to know anything about. Back when we were doing our show on just how to have a good divorce, I know we talked about like kids should never be the middleman, that this is adult business that should be kept private from kids. You want to present as a united front, even if you're still having disagreements about your arrangements. That's something that you do privately. You do it with your counsel or a mediator. You don't do it in front of the kids. You don't talk about what's going right or wrong. That really creates psychic strain on our children. So again, two adults who put children first would know they need to bite their tongues about this kind of stuff.
Right.
So we're talking about somebody who obviously is not emotionally evolved because they are preferring to put their own ego and grandiosity, or their agenda ahead of the mental well-being of their kids. And this is why really these things are kind of extreme cases of humans. But again, does it happen? Yeah, it does. It happens. So again, here this is the child just hearing inappropriate content. And I'll go back to my other one. The defending doesn't mean that you then increase content to the conversation by saying, well, let me get you the papers. Let me show you my T4 to show you that he's wrong. Like, it's not that kind of defending with factoids.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you're really kind of sticking to your guns in the simplest way, but more addressing the fact that, it would be terrible to hear bad things about what's going on between your father and us, and I don't want you to worry about us. And us adults can work it out, and you don't need to worry, yourself about that. I'm sorry he's saying things that would make you feel that we're attacking one another. So just that kind of emotional comforting, as opposed to, well, he never paid child support for the first 2 years, and now I lost the house. Like, I don't want to add more of that. That's two wrongs don't make a right.
Right. But it's so difficult in those moments to have that toolkit, to have those statements and, where you can pull them out, because often it's overridden by anger or emotion or just being terrified of losing the kids.
Yeah.
Or, so all of those emotions come into play. So it's hard to just simplify everything and go, no, I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to bite.
Well, to your point, this is going to be very triggering for adults. And I've done 20 years of mindfulness meditation, so that just because an emotion comes up doesn't mean that I get dysregulated by it anymore.
Right.
And so that's the benefit of spending that time every day for 5 minutes, so that down the road, when a real life situation comes up, you already have the practice in place. So if you have not started mindfulness meditation, people, I would absolutely say start there. For those people that are in these situations, it is the time to get your personal counseling going, because the first thing that I would be recommending to somebody, besides the mindfulness meditation, is first notice that you are being triggered, that you're being activated, that your emotions are high.
Right.
And noticing them and realizing that you still have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And from a position of choice, that's where instead of reacting, we're going to try to respond. Okay. And the responding, that little gap in between could be just enough time, because kids don't need immediate answers, could be just enough time to take 3 breaths. It could be just enough time for you to have something prepared, because I know you say in the moment, how do you come up with all those things? Mm-hmm. They're a little easier for me just because I'm kind of a professional communicator, been doing this for a long time. It's not everybody's strength. But to have some little saying in your pocket that's generic enough that when you get triggered, you said, I don't want to do the wrong thing, I want to respond, not react. I could respond with something kind of neutral, and I might just say something comforting is the number one, comforting to the child, looking after their needs first. I'm so sorry that you're hearing all this information that must be upsetting to hear. Trust me when I tell you, you don't need to worry. I love you, we'll work through it. I'm sorry that you're hearing bad things. I would hope that you would believe that neither of us would have that much malice or whatever. I'm still kind of at the very end, sort of saying, but I didn't. But
not that way and not in that tone.
But really the thing is, you're really trying to bring your own emotions down, and you're trying to caretake the child's emotions in the moment.
Yeah. It's very different for a child that's 3 versus 10 versus 16.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's that, the language changes, the dynamics change, and sometimes friendship comes into play, like parent versus friend. And so now it becomes a different playing ground and playing field, and that's very difficult for parents.
And especially in the teen years, because it's hard enough to raise a teen. Right? And now if they're here, they already have reasons to hate you. You're the person who says there's a curfew. Mm-hmm. You're the person who won't buy them $300 running shoes for back to school. Right? You're already a meanie.
Right.
So it becomes really difficult when you're like, is this just regular teen angst? Is this the regular stuff that people have to put up with? Which is why, again, I'd say, look at the best that you can do. We're all human. None of us are going to do this perfectly. But if you can keep your focus on trying to do your good parenting the best you can, even through hardship, even through tough times, right? So what does that mean? I would take a parenting class. And again, remember, if this thing's going to end up in court and you've got to defend yourself, and you say, well, listen, I took an 8-week online course. I am practicing this. You got to be non-punitive, nothing shame-based, got to have good consequences, all the good stuff that this TV show teaches parents. Because once you get into court situations and parents are unhappy, everything's under the microscope.
Right.
Everything's like, it's the same with if you're if you're a foster child, they are going to watch you more closely than a natural child in a home, right? Mm-hmm. Like the margins for behavior are just narrower because you're under the microscope of the system. And so, suddenly you've got high conflict alienation divorces, and everybody's walking around with body cams and doing screen captures of everybody's texts, and none of us are perfect if you put us under the microscope, right? But now suddenly your parenthood is under the microscope, and there's somebody else waiting for you to make a transgression. You got to be really on your game. And so if that means going to therapy for your reactivity, if that means taking a parenting class to improve your communication and to get, help set boundaries and enforce them without blowing up, you got to get on that.
So you're talking about those tips, but also you had mentioned writing everything down.
Yeah.
All of those things become important tools in, and I don't just think, necessarily the end game of a court battle, and, it's just having the ability to write things down and understand them and go back and kind of, identify where the gaps are or what's happening, I think is useful for people in their own self-care, in their own, right? Like just dealing with the situation as well.
I love clients that say, I'm so sorry, I'm just writing that down as you talk. I'm like, you take all the notes you need. I think that's fantastic. And I do often ask clients, please write down the scenarios that are happening. Because it's amazing when you come to therapy and you'll say like, oh, well, I had this altercation with my son, and then I said you didn't put the pizza box in the recycle bin, and then he told me this, and as we're going through the dynamic and I'm trying to figure out what got this kid so upset or whatever, I'll say, and then what did you do? And then what did you say? And they're like, I don't remember my part. We're very good at remembering what the other person did wrong. We are not very good at remembering what we said and did. And so if we want to look at a dynamic and understand what's going on and have that self-reflecting piece, so we can say, could I have said it better? Was it my tone? Was it, whatever it might have been? Right. I can see that dynamic better, but I can't if I only have half the information. And interestingly, with journaling, there's a gentleman, his name is Penny Baker, and he's done research that talks about the value of journaling. And this is not good for my private practice, but I can tell you that his research shows that if you do journaling for if you have a problem, presenting issue in your mind, and you journal for 20 minutes a day, 3 times a day, you have the same success rate of solving that problem through that self-reflection as you do from a therapy session.
Really?
I know. Much cheaper too.
Yeah, can't believe you just said that on TV.
but we've also seen with journaling too, and this may be a little bit off topic, but it would be a great thing to give to your kids to do, get kids journaling. Is we know that high disclosures, you don't have to tell a friend, you don't have to publicize it in a newspaper, but by journaling you move perseverations in your brain into language, and that's what the thing is that is effective in helping you solve it or process it. People say, I got to process that. This is part of the processing step. But students, they have lower blood pressure, less suicidality. They've done this with students. They've done it with Holocaust survivors. They've done it with war vets. It works. It's worth doing.
Well, and look at the ripple effect. They always say, when you're studying, if you write it down, it's, it helps with remembering, and it helps with, so it's that ripple effect of what it's doing and the benefits that it has for you, just with your own mindset and being able to reread and understand and focus on the issue at hand.
Yeah. I've also probably journaled 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. Every morning. It's my routine. Meditation and journaling every morning. And Wordle and Quirtle. No. Let's be honest. Come on.
Those are a
Let's
little
be
more
honest.
recent. Those aren't 20 years.
That's not 20 years. No.
No, that's a COVID pickup.
But it does speak to habits.
Yes.
It does speak to habits and stacking your habits and sticking with them over time. So it just becomes sort of automatic what you do. It feels weird to me not to do either of those two things. I feel very like something's missing, something's off. So that's, they don't take long. It's 5 minutes each. That's 10 minutes of your day. Tremendous return on investment there. And believe me, if you're going through a toxic divorce and you've got kids that are being alienated against you, you need every bit of help that you can get. So why not go for those? Those are just easy, good self-care, self-supporting things that you can do immediately.
Right. Let's talk about your website.
Please. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Because I want to, as we talk about the tools and all the resources that are available to parents, you have some amazing resources on your website.
Yeah, it is my hub, and everything is on there. So, I've been doing blogs and putting, kind of shorter than 4-minute reads, tons of videos that have been archived up there. They're all done by different categories. So you can go on there and, whatever, homework, divorce, grief and death, whatever it might be, picky eaters. There's all kinds of categories, all kinds of information, but it's also got links to my upcoming events and webinars. It's got links to all my podcast episodes that I've got. It's got my newsletter sign up, my books, where to buy them locally, and they're in different languages, so it's got all those links through. So it's also got all the little icons to take you to all my social media. So if you go visit me there, you're gonna get the whole shebang.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots of great information on today's show. Really
good luck to all those people out there that are going through this.
I know, and we, unfortunately, we all know somebody that's struggling and going through it. So you've provided a lot of tools and information today, so thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you to everybody at home for watching. We'll see you next time on The Parenting Show. Take care.
program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
You're watching Rogers TV. Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
Ever in a rush to get a hot meal on the table? I'll show you how to do just that and batch fill your freezer at the same time. I am always looking for fast and convenient ways to help my clients get a hot, healthy meal on the table. And one of my favorite ways to do that is by making them bags. And what I mean by bags is a slow cooker or an Instant Pot or a Dutch oven bag. What that means is I drop all of the ingredients needed for a full meal for 4 into a large zippy bag that then goes into the freezer and is ready for my client to either pop in their Instant Pot from frozen or take out the night before to defrost so that they can cook it in their slow cooker all day or in the stove in their Dutch oven. Today I'm going to be showing you 4 of my most popular bags and how I can prepare 8 meals for 4 people in a short, maybe 25 minutes worth of time. As long as you're organized enough and have all your ingredients with you, you can actually do this in really fast time. It's one of my favorite things to do in my in-home cooking sessions for my clients. And in 4 hours cooking in their home, I can make sometimes 24 meals for 4. It's great. Today, the first 2 recipes I'm going to be starting with are my famous pineapple Jamaican pulled beef and my Italian chicken cacciatore. First, I'm going to get my cast iron skillet on high so that I can sear my beautiful grass-fed beef roast. You can actually use any cut of beef you would like in this recipe because it's going to either be pressure cooked in your Instant Pot or slow cooked in your slow cooker or Dutch oven all day. You don't need to have as tender of a piece of meat. My favorite thing to use is chuck or actually just buying stewing beef. I'm gonna let my pan get nice and hot and I'm going to sear this so that it gets a nice color on the outside and lots of flavor. If you're in an extra rush and you don't want to do any cooking or it's too hot for you to do that, you can actually just leave this step out completely. I'm going to show you how I set up my bags for easy filling. Some people buy these contraptions that cost money and are made out of plastic that sit on a counter that you put your Ziploc bag in so that'll stay up. But I just fold the top over and tuck it under. And it stays up on its own. I'm going to be making 2 bags of each item today. Look at that, my skillet is smoking. Let me turn that down just a little bit so I can get this seared. Listen to that sizzle. While that's searing, I'm going to clean my pineapple. Pineapple is the main ingredient in this. You could use any protein you like. You could use pork or even chicken would work really well. The reason I'm making 2 meals is because most of the stuff that I have bought here is enough to make 2. So half of a pineapple is enough to make 1 and the other half is enough to make the other. I like to make this dish a little bit spicy. because it's been inspired by Jamaica, and I always love spice when I go there. And because I'm cooking this pineapple, either in a pressure cooker or in a slow cooker or in a Dutch oven, I don't cut the middle out because it will cook really nicely for me. Let me flip my meat. Look at that nice sear. That's what we're looking for. Just a tiny little bit of color to help it along. So part of my pineapple in there. This also gets garlic, so I'm going to chop roughly a nice piece of garlic. Half of a jalapeno. I like a lot of spice, and this is for me, so I'm gonna leave most of the seeds in, but for most of my clients, I would remove 99, if not 100% of the seeds, because most of them have kids, and it's easier for them to add spice than it is for them to take away. Awesome. Now another piece of this is a little bit of citrus. Today I'm choosing to use orange, but you could certainly use lemon or lime. I'm just looking for a little bit of moisture so that it gives something for my pineapple to start creating a sauce for our beef. I'm also going to put a lovely big pinch of salt, a couple turns of some fresh black pepper, and half of a cooking onion, which I've already chopped up so I don't cry on camera. I'm gonna do this in my second bag real quick while that sears. Squeeze of the orange, chop of the pineapple. You can do this with a lot of meals. If there are meals that you have simmering on the stove, like a beef stew or a chicken stew or some pulled pork, things like that, you can actually store them in a Ziploc bag with all of your ingredients, marinade and sauces and spices right in the bag. And then you can take that out the night before and let it defrost so you have a quick meal to just pop into your Instant Pot slow cooker or Dutch oven. I might need to turn this one more time. Yep, there we go. And I literally, live in front of you, just made two main parts of a meal, the protein and sauce, in less than what? 3 minutes? I'm going to turn this off. I'm gonna set this inside and set this inside. I'm missing the garlic in my one. I don't wanna forget that. And I'm missing my salt in one and my pepper. And honestly, I just dropped my cloth, sorry about that. You pull the bag up and it's done and ready to go in the freezer for you to use on a night when you are in a pinch. A nice salad and some cooked grain like a rice or a quinoa would be enough to turn this into a lovely meal for 4. The next recipe I'm showing you is my chicken cacciatore. It's just as simple, but a little bit quicker because I don't sear the meat for that one. I can actually just leave it raw. I have some organic free-range chicken thighs here in front of me. So same thing, I fold over the top of my Ziploc bag, tuck it in so that it stays for me. Because I'm not searing the chicken, I'm just going to put equal parts into each bag. And looks like we have an uneven number, so I'm just gonna cut one in half. Don't cut on a plate at home because it's not easy or good. Just gonna give my hand a quick rinse. So I've got my chicken thighs in the bottom of my bag. I have some pre-diced or chunks of bell peppers and red onion. There's 4 bell peppers in here, so it's 2 bell peppers per bag and half of a red onion per bag. Along with the peppers and the onions, I love a potato in my chicken cacciatore. You can choose to use mini potatoes, then you don't have to do any cutting at all, and it makes it even faster. You can just dump them right in. But I'm using red skin potatoes, and I'm just going to quickly chop one for each bag. So I've got one potato for my first bag, and my second potato for my second one. I'm cutting it into quarters and nice big chunks. Because this is going to be cooking all day on the stove in your Dutch oven, all day in your Instant Pot or in your pressure cooker, you don't need to do small little pieces, larger pieces, so that the food stays together. In here, I like to put a little bit of olive oil. I like to pinch a nice generous amount of salt, which, you know, I love. Some fresh ground pepper. And a whole can of diced tomatoes in each bag. 1 and 2. At this point, you could add garlic powder, onion powder, all of those things, but I actually like to add it when I'm cooking. You could also add like Italian seasoning, dried herbs, whatever you like, but I like to keep it pretty simple because, as I mentioned, when I'm cooking for people that I don't know very well, it's easier for them to add seasoning than it is for them to take it away. Just like that, in under 10 minutes, I just made 4 meals for a family of 4. After the break, I'm going to show you 2 more recipes. See you then.
On Rogers TV.
On Rogers TV, we have a reality show like no other. It has a great cast of characters. Some you may have even helped land the role. Each episode has something different. Plans are devised, decisions are made, votes are cast, and money is spent. It's local reality TV that you won't want to miss. And it's exclusive to Rogers cable customers. Catch your municipal council coverage on Rogers TV. Visit rogerstv.com for broadcast details.
I belong here.
You may think I don't fit in.
That I don't look the part.
But to me, curling is more than a sport.
It's my community.
Together, we can sweep away the barriers.
Create spaces where we all belong.
And experience the joy of curling.
I belong here.
We belong here. We unite, and united we curl.
Lovely viewers, it's your host of On the Couch, Antoine El Hashim, reminding you to tune in for every episode of Season 9 of the longest running and most loved local queer talk show on Rogers TV. Check it out.
Food and discussion go hand in hand. Join the conversation on Instagram at @ByUmChef. Send us your questions. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like to make. Maybe even send a picture of your own culinary creations. Good food, bringing people together for centuries.
All right, so in the last segment, I was able to make 4 meals in under 10 minutes. This one's a little bit longer, and I'm actually gonna show you how to do one in the bag and then also actually cook it in the Dutch oven so that you can get an idea of how you'll be cooking this. So this is a chili that I'm making. I'm making a chili with meat in it, but you could actually just leave the ground meat out. You could use some crumbled tofu or some fake meat if that's something that you enjoy, or you can just leave the meat out altogether and just use beans. This happens to be some pork from the pig that I buy every year. I hand ground this and I keep it in my freezer for whenever I need it. I've already sauteed it, as you see, got some caramelization and got it to cook through. And to this, I'm gonna be adding my taco seasoning. This taco seasoning is chili powder, cumin powder, coriander, onion, garlic, and salt. You can use whatever taco or fajita or Mexican seasoning that you like, or you can just make your own by adding chili powder, cumin, and coriander. Get that in there. I'm going to be using a squeeze of tomato paste, probably about, 3 to 4 tablespoons. A little bit of salt, and I'll stir this up really nice. So these bags here, you'll take them out of the freezer the night before. You'll let them defrost completely. And then the next morning, you'll put them in your slow cooker on a medium or low setting for up to 8 hours. If you're using your Instant Pot, it doesn't have to be defrosted all the way, which is really nice. And you can pop it in your Instant Pot on high for about 16 minutes, or you can use the meat setting, which usually goes for about 22 to 26 minutes. I've got my pork all seasoned up. Now it has that red Mexican meat look that you're all used to. Let me pull my Dutch oven over, and I'm going to put half of my ground meat into the bottom of my Dutch oven, and then the other half I'm gonna pop into my Ziploc bag that I'm gonna set up so that it doesn't fall over for me. Along with this, let me turn this up just a little bit so I can bring my Dutch oven up to temperature and put the rest of my ground meat into my Ziploc bag. Oh yeah, this smells amazing. Okay, so I've got my meat in my bag and in my Dutch oven. I've got a white onion here that I've diced up in advance, and I'm putting half in my Dutch oven and half in my bag. Every one of these recipes makes 2 meals. If you have a very big family, you could put all of it into one bag and this would make 1 meal. But if you're 4 or less, this is enough to split in 2. So when you're making one of these even for dinner tonight, you could actually put the other half of your ingredients into a bag and double up by making 2 meals in one night. I have a Cubano pepper, which is a non-spicy green pepper that I've diced and split in 2. And I have a jalapeno that I've removed the seeds from that I've split in 2. I removed the seeds and the membrane from this jalapeno because I'm actually adding something to this that is a little bit spicy. So I just want to make sure I don't have too much spice and that we can enjoy this chili. I'm gonna add that to my pot. Then I have a small little clove of garlic that I'm gonna split between both. All right, so at this point, let me just stir that around for us. At this point, I add my beans. I have some dried beans here. I'm using dried beans in the bag that's going into the slow cooker, Instant Pot, or Dutch oven. Because it's gonna be cooking either all day or under pressure, this will work well. I soaked these beans overnight and drained them. So they're semi-soft, they're just not cooked all the way through. And these guys will cook in the Instant Pot with more than enough time, or slow cooker or whatever. But because I'm making this chili right now, and we wanna eat it soon, I actually opened up a can of black beans that I've rinsed and drained. And that's what I'm using for the chili that we're eating right away. Then I have a can of diced tomatoes. Half of this can goes in my bag, and the other half of my can goes in this chili. Oh, that's the sizzle we're looking for. And this is that special spicy sauce that I was saying I have. This is a tomatillo salsa. It happens to be my favorite type of salsa, so I use this. But you can use your favorite kind of salsa. You can just use a jar of your favorite medium salsa from the regular big box store. Or you can use, something specialty like this. Or if you have the time, which I do every once in a while, you can make the salsa from scratch. I've made this recipe with a pineapple salsa, and it turned out really well. Half of my jar in there, and the other half of my jar in there. I need just a little bit more liquid, so I'm using a full jar of water in my Dutch oven to give it an actual chili consistency. Look at that. And then I'm going to put 2 full jars in the bag. And that's because those black beans I showed you, even though they're soaked, they're not fully cooked. So they're just gonna need that little bit extra of liquid. If you don't have dried black beans and you're using a can of black beans, well, looks like I need to add more water because I just dropped some water on the floor. And that's what happens in real life when you're cooking. You make a mess. Let me close this up so I don't make any more of a mess. Now I close this up. Get all the air out of that bag. And this one's ready to go into the freezer to cook at a later time. And this one's gonna stay on the stove here and simmer. I'm gonna put my lid on my Dutch oven. I'm also gonna show you a quick trick. See how this is kind of bulgy? You wanna know a great way to store sauces and soups and things in your freezer? Storing them in a Ziploc bag just like this, and actually flattening it out. Then when I am storing in the freezer, I don't have to have as much room. I can have a stack of all of my bagged foods ready to go with a little label, and then it doesn't take up as much room in your freezer. I'm gonna let my chili go on the stove and come to a simmer so all of my flavors can meld together. I'm gonna clean up this mess and this water that I just spilt all over myself. And when we come back from the break, I'm gonna show you my vegetarian chickpea curry that I'm gonna be making in a bag. We'll see you after the break.
For more meal preparation ideas, have a look back at some episodes from previous seasons at rogerstv.com or our YouTube page, and there you will find some great ideas for quick breakfast, snacks, and lunches, perfect for people on the go.
Most people think that it's really hard to eat healthy when they're on the go, resorting to things like drive-thrus and quick pick-me-ups at corner stores and gas stations and things like that. But that's a fallacy. It does not have to be difficult to eat healthy when you're on the go. I'm about to show you how you can take a few hours a week and create a whole bunch of meals from the same ingredients so that you have things ready to go. I love to have a chicken roasted ready to go for the rest of the week. You can use it for so many different recipes, meals, and even as a snack.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
I was born and raised in Musqueam First Nation territory by my mother, who spoke Hunkaminam to me. As a child, I ceased using my mother tongue, as to use any language other than English was considered not being Canadian, so I was told. The old people came to me in a dream and reminded me of who I am and where I come from. I have reawakened. My roots are strong, and I'm no longer a silent speaker. My language tells me where I'm from. It defines me and guides me to teach others to learn and understand our culture and traditions. A gift for those in the present and the unborn generations. What was lost is found. What was asleep has awakened. My blood is here, and I am complete. I have returned home.
Hey, Grey County. Think it's too late to become more fit? Think again. I'm personal trainer Karen Ross, specializing in 55+ fitness. My mission is to help you find your way back to health and wellness. I'll give you the knowledge and the power to take control of your own fitness path. Everyone deserves quality of life for their entire life. Tune in to A Little Bit Fit with me, Karen Ross, right here on Rogers TV.
Be sure to follow Daniela on Instagram at @ByUmChef for all the latest posts, including behind-the-scenes looks of the Simply Cooking set and some delicious culinary creations that will definitely make you hungry. And if you've missed an episode, don't worry, because we have you covered. You can tune in or set your PVR to one of the rebroadcasts, or log on to rogerstv.com/Ottawa or our YouTube page to check out all of our previous seasons and episodes.
All right, so we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meals going in under 20 minutes. And now we're gonna do the last 7/8 because we're making the same recipe in 2 bags. This is a chickpea curry. You can make this with whatever vegetables you like. I've chosen cauliflower, kale, and some onion, but you can use potato, bell pepper, regular cauliflower, zucchini, whatever veggies you like in a curry. I'm using chickpeas today, but you could definitely add some chicken, or you could just swap the chickpeas out for chicken completely. These are dried chickpeas that I have soaked overnight. So again, I'm gonna be adding quite a bit of liquid to my bag so that they can actually have enough time to get nice and plump and soft for us. But if you don't have that type of time or you don't want to use dried chickpeas, you can certainly use a can. The only thing that I would suggest with a can is that you wouldn't actually put the canned chickpeas in the bag. You would actually leave the chickpeas out until you cook the item in the Instant Pot or in your slow cooker, and you would add in the can of chickpeas at the very end, because if you put the chickpeas in at the beginning of the cooking, by the time they're done cooking, they're just gonna be mush. So doing my little bag thing, setting up my 2 little bags. In these guys, I have an onion that I chopped in half, so half in here. Use my knife to help me scoop. Half in here. The reason I like to use kale in this recipe is because kale doesn't wilt very easily, but it adds some green, and we all like a little bit of green in our curry. So I'm gonna put my half of my kale in one and half of my kale in the other. Then I have this beautiful yellow cauliflower. It's probably not very common, but what's great about it is it tastes just like a cauliflower, but it adds vitamins, because the more color, the more vitamins we have. So half of my cauliflower in each one. I've actually done some of these recipes with frozen veggies because my clients happen to have frozen cauliflower in the freezer or frozen kale in the freezer. That works well too. And I used real kale bunch today that I chopped up myself. But in a pinch, you can also just buy one of those pre-cut washed bags of kale. Those work as well. I have a can of coconut milk here, and I'm putting it in each one. And let's hope that they don't fall over on me, but I'm gonna fill my jar with water for each one twice. Because again, those chickpeas are still semi-dry, as I was only able to soak them overnight. I didn't cook them all the way through. They're gonna cook all the way through in the actual cooking in your Instant Pot, Dutch oven, or slow cooker. Here I put a 1/4 cup of curry powder, so 2 tablespoons in each one. This is a Jamaican curry that I bought in Jamaica, but you can use whatever curry you have on hand, or you can just go to the grocery store and buy a curry powdered mix. This is a yellow curry, but I've done it with red curry, and even green curry works as well. I've got 2 cups of my soaked dry chickpeas that are not cooked all the way through. And I have a lime. I'm going to squeeze half of it in each bag. Oh, that's a dry lime, but that's okay. All right, a little bit of salt in each one, and a squeeze of tomato paste in each one. All right, and that's it. Now we have 8 meals that I made in under a half an hour. Now, for these bags, you can write the instructions on, but the instructions are pretty much the same for each one. Defrost the night before, take out and leave in the fridge. Then when they're defrosted, you pop them in your slow cooker all day on a medium to low for up to 8 hours. You pop them in your Instant Pot on high or on the meat setting for 16 to 22 minutes. Or you pop them in your Dutch oven, like I did this beautiful chili, and let it simmer for probably about 45 minutes until all your veggies are cooked through. Wow, look at that simmer. That smell is just fantastic. I'm going to show you how I finish these meals by adding some fresh herb. You wouldn't add these fresh herbs to the bags. You would add them to your finished meal. Now, wasn't that simple to get all these meals done in such a short amount of time? I hope you try. See you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Join us next week when we'll be joined by Marcia Cunningham from the Roxy Theatre in Owen Sound.
Also, Peter Reed from Crime Stoppers Grey Bruce and Renee from the Owen Sound Animal Shelter with a new Pet of the Week.
Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday tickets. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you'll get every live game, every Sunday afternoon, all season long. Follow your favorite teams and players